It's the middle of the week. Welcome to Wednesday on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. It's my privilege to come your way this morning. Well, shortly I'll be serving you the news, bringing you the latest in the world of news and information. But right after that, we get into our news review. And guess who's joining us? Microfinance analyst and development enthusiast Roderick will join me for the review of the news. And today we continue our series. You remember that we've had a conversation on the economy, the financial state of our country. We've also spoken about education. Well, we're turning our lenses to the agri sector this morning. What is it with agriculture? What are we getting right? What are we not getting right? And especially when Mr. President speaks about import substitution. What can we grow here? How do we go about it to ensure that we are food self-sufficient? Well, this morning, joining us for that conversation, Edward Karewe. He is General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Reverend Evans Amofa, he's been here before. He is CEO, Agric Impact Limited. We also have Alfred Amofa, CEO, Western Daredel Group Limited. Then, joining the conversation, Dr. Lawrence Echampon, Lecturer, Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension, University of Cape Coast. All of them, from the academic standpoint, from the practical standpoint, will be joining us as we get into agriculture. Also on the show today, we'll give you tips on how to stay healthier this year. Our facilitator will be Dr. Fred Adomako Boateng. He's Director for Health for the Bono East region. He's also a consultant public health physician and a fellow with the West Africa College of Physicians. He'll be joining us this morning. Stay tuned for that. But today being a Wednesday, courtesy of EcoBank, as always, we'll bring you AM Business. Look forward to that one. It's a special that we're bringing your way this morning. And later you'd get the chance to join us with your thoughts on the myriad issues we're going to be discussing on the show. Just share with us via the hashtag AM Show. And should we have enough time to activate the phone lines, we'll be sure to pick your calls as well. On that note, Ghana Force, stay with us. We'll bring you the best news up next. Thank you for staying. We start the news with education-related matters. And the Old Vandals Association has given the University of Ghana's management a one-week ultimatum to rescind its decision to expel continuing students from the Commonwealth and Mensa Saba halls. The old residents of Commonwealth Hall converged on the university campus on Tuesday to solidarize with current students in what they describe as the university management's victimization of students following a clash during Hall Week celebrations. Management says the decision to expel these continuing students from both halls is part of many other disciplinary measures they will be taking as investigations progress. James Kwesi Aveji now reports.
Mostly clad in red, the Old Vandals trooped campus charged with chants, drumming and singing. Their message is simple: the management retains students in the hall.
There are certain levels of engagement that is currently happening. This is one of the engagement. In fact, as you can see, we've also are engaging the alumni of Mensa Saba Hall. A lot of people have the misconception that Vandals and Saba Hall do not have that harmony. I want to say it on authority that Commonwealth Hall and Saba Hall always and has always proven that they've been working together. As you can see, there are Vandals here, there are Mensa Saba Hall also here. Now, the university authority, even though we have old Vandals that are engaging some of the key stakeholders, we are giving them, by the end of this week, to rescind their decision, because we believe that it's a knee-jerk approach.
The Old Vandals say this decision is crucial in upholding the tradition of the Commonwealth Hall.
There is a culture of oneness, the love that we share, that irrespective of where you are coming from in this country, once you get to Commonwealth Hall, you will be able to survive, money or without money. It is that tradition that has kept us. Whether you have money, you don't have money, you will succeed in Commonwealth. And there are so many examples of people who came here with nothing, who have made a mark in this country. And it is that passion that will make somebody travel from Bolgatanga and will want to come and be part, that his voice will be counted. So we are here to support the university in all their legitimate endeavors. We will support them. And history of this war have taught us that we have demonstrated much love than any other alumni body in the university.
In a recent communique issued by the university, management took the decision to expel all continuing students from both Commonwealth and Mensa Saba halls except female student of Mensa Saba Hall, level 100, and graduate student of both halls. But the old vandals say management cannot be implementing the outcome of an investigation they are yet to make public.
The hall. Let me take you to the Constitution of Ghana. Reference your mind to Article 296 of the Ghana Constitution. What the Constitution says is that any person vested with power that is discretionary must not exercise this in a capricious manner. You have to be fair, you have to be candid. Look, in August 2022, it is alleged that there was a clash between students from Commonwealth and students from Saba Hall. And the university, within their wisdom, set up an investigative committee. Now, the text of reference of the committee was to come up with findings and, if possible, find people culpable for that complicity. As we speak today, nobody knows who are complicit, who are the wrongdoers. And in the words of the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, he said that Commonwealth and Saba cannot go ahead with the JC election because what if a criminal gets elected? The same logical reasoning is that what if a criminal doesn't get elected? So the point we are making is that, one, you don't visit the sins of a father on an innocent son. In few miscreants, who much of today we cannot authenticate their background, whether they are vandals, they are voter hall students, they are Saba hall students, nobody knows about them. Until a competent committee establishes so, me and you, we don't know. I never knew law until I came to Legon and read about law. And in criminal proceedings, two things must be established. You must establish autus rea mens rea, what is the action and the intention. We all know the action that was, but what was the intention behind? And who are the people involved? And in matters of law, anybody that's level allegation must be proven to be innocent until proven otherwise. So as we speak today, those students we are talking about, nobody can say authenticately that they are complicit, unless the committee says so. So we are sending a signal to VC and all those involved that, look, we want to joy.
Meanwhile, management has taken a strong defense on their decision, saying it is necessary to avert future clashes between the two halls.
The steps we took are based on the information we've gathered so far from the investigations. We don't need to wait for the investigations to be completed for students to be jailed before we take steps. These are steps that are meant to, stem the tide of violence that has been taking place. So there's no need for us to wait for investigations to be completed before we take any steps. So as we go along, you gather information based on the evidence you have so far. You take steps to prevent further violence. That's what we're doing. We've sent them to university hostels. UGEL are partly owned by the university. UGEL hostels are partly owned by the university. So they are not some alien places that we've sent them. You understand? And we've given every person who had a room legitimately, we've given them another room. Yes, there's a difference in fee, and so what? There are other students paying the same fees. What's wrong with that? There's variation in fees across the campus. So you deal with what you have. Okay? So we've not put any student on the street or send them home. We've given them another room. If there's a difference in fee, that's your luck. That's how it works.
As it stands, continuing students will know their true fate as schools resume next week, while the old vandals face it off with management. James Kwesi, Aveji's report for JoyNews.
Now, residents of Anyanui in the Anglo constituency of the Volta region are asking government to fully equip the hospital in the area. The residents have over the years traveled to adjoining communities to treat common diseases like malaria. This is because the only health center in the community did not have a functioning laboratory. Though Member of Parliament for the area, Richard Kwame Sefe, has equipped the lab, the health center needs more equipment to provide quality healthcare. Kukwasante now reports.
In bigger cities like Accra, Kumasi and Takoradi, people can walk into pharmacies, purchase a test kit, and within minutes know what exactly is wrong with them on their own. The story is not the same for residents in Anyanui in the Anglo constituency in the Volta region. For so many years, they had to travel several kilometers to adjoining communities to undergo simple tests to diagnose diseases like malaria. This was due to the fact that the community health center lacked a functional health laboratory. Christian is a physician assistant at the Anyanui Health Center.
Refer the cases to either Atoko, Angloga, or as far as Keta for them to get very simple tests done. Other than that, then anyone who needs such laboratory care must be referred to Keta. We were struggling until the Honorable MP for Anglo constituency came in to support us with some of the things that we need. Yeah, so majority of the things came from him. We got a little from the Health Directorate, and then the community also supported in their small way.
Courtesy MP for the area, Richard Kwame Sefe, this has now been fixed, and the facility has a laboratory that is up and running.
You know, the area is poverty endemic area, so coming to clinic and you have to take transport, go to either Keta or Atoko, is additional cost. As a result, I decided to intervene by supplying some of the equipment and tools needed to equip the lab. So far, that is how we have run. Though the lab is not fully equipped, it's left with the chemistry and blood analyzer, which we are appealing to individuals and benevolent society and even the indigenes from the area to support us, because it cannot be done by my good self alone. If any of them feel interest in that, they could talk to the PA who is in charge, and you'll be able to tell them what is needed. We are informed that there are some challenges with the microscope too. I don't think that costs so much. Anybody could come to our aid so that we procure a new one, whilst we think of procuring the chemistry or the blood, full blood count analyzer. As if you knew, you know, what happened was that the same time that this place was lagging behind that Anglogan Health Center. So I equipped the two labs at the same time. So the problem with this one is also happening in Anglogan. Anglogan is a bit bigger than this place. So they have more equipment that I supplied. So normally I, through the common fund and few people that I talk to, they support. And my prayer is that now that we want to go big higher or a notch higher, we need support from people who could help us, especially with the chemistry analyzer and one or two microscopes, and I think we'll be good to go.
But the health practitioners are calling for more support to purchase more equipment for the health laboratory.
And then we have a functioning lab. We do most of the tests aside the blood analyzer, where we can do a full blood count. That is the major thing we need right now. And then we need a better microscope.
Now, in our next story, the Jospong Group is partnering investors from Thailand to establish rice farms in all 16 regions of Ghana. This partnership will also see the establishment of rice milling plants and an organic fertilizer hub to feed the industry. Chief Executive Officer of the Jospong Group, Joseph Siawe Japong, says rice production needs skills and technical knowledge to increase yields, thus the need to woo investors with the right experience and mechanical assets into Ghana.
To exam through the assistant of Dr. Sita that the equipment that we want to purchase from them, how do we get the financing? Your Excellency, it might interest you to know that they are ready to give us a facility of about $160 million. And so, as we speak now, Dr. Sita brought 20 Thailand guys, people here with manufacturers that are going to facilitate it up to help out. This morning, we met the Minister of Finance, and is ready to support with any kind of form of assistance to do that. Then we have a business forum in Thailand, And then we established a company called Asian African Corporation that will facilitate all these logistics and the personnel that are coming here to support us. And then we signed MOUs with companies there, and then they have come down. Now, what we have done since we came from 26 November, we've met with our idea that the whole country, we are going to grow rice. So from the northern to the southern part. So we are developing 16 teams, so 16 Thailand teams to work with the growers and farmers to grow. And within 2 years, we will stop importing rice. So we have met the stakeholders, and then we have engaged them and discussed with them that the available lands that are ready, we'll look at it and see. Then we visited farms. Some of the Thailand guys have visited the existing farms, and then some of them have visited rice mills also to ascertain the situation there and then to get it up. Then we've met all these association groups. We've met all of them from Ministry of Agri, Ministry of Trade, every GIZ and all the other people. We've met all of them to discuss how best we can form a consortium, because this is not an individual company's objective, it's a national issue. And then we've also visited institutions, KNUST, Legon, agri colleges, also to have a discussion with them, how best we'll be able to deal with them. And Dr. Sicha has arranged that 20 of them will be going to Thailand March to go and also train there. So while the farmers are here from Thailand, students are also going there to learn, and then we will all sponsor the whole thing up, and then they will come and impact the country.
Well, now, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry wants Ghanaians to go for regular eye checks. He says he contracted cataract, wore spectacles to cover up, but was diagnosed and treated when he went for a checkup. He spoke to correspondent Rafiq Salam after he organized an eye screening exercise for the Nandom constituency.
One important organ of the human body, which plays a critical role in the lives of people but has been downplayed, is the eye. There are myths of persons who have challenges with their eyesight but has never taken the pain to have them screened for proper antidote. Concerned about the plight of the Nandom constituents, Ambrose Derry, on the margins of a New Year party held for constituents, lamped it up with eye screening to enable the people check the status of their eyes.
I think that as you see, the attendance is good. People have come to check their eyesight, and I want to thank Zach for making this possible. I want to assure you that the quality of work by this group from WA is really, really world class, because I have been close to them. I was, diagnosed with cataract, and you can see now that I do not wear glasses because his diagnosis was right, and wherever I went, it was proven. And the good thing is that they are not only giving medicines, but they are also giving glasses to people free for those who need that facility.
Now, some managers of orphanage homes in the central region are worried about the increasing number of children who are born and dumped in the bush and other obscure places. They are asking would-be parents who cannot afford to cater for their children to seek support from the Department of Social Welfare. Managing Director of the Hope Children's Village, Samuel Addo, made the call when ProMat Foundation, an NGO in mental health care, donated clothing for over 100 orphans in the Village of Hope.
According to the orphanage managers, the Social Welfare Department is on a daily basis saddled with cases of children who've been dumped in either a bush or at obscure places. On the street, mentally challenged persons who are pregnant end up giving birth to children who they later abandon. According to the orphanage homes, the phenomenon, coupled with people who give birth and deliberately abandon their children on the street, is increasing the burden of the orphanage homes. According to the managing director of the Hope Children's Village, Samuel Addo, whose facility happens to be one of the facilities that takes care of such children, many have raised questions as to which individuals impregnate these mentally ill patients, with some school of thought pointing to the fact that some impregnate them for money rituals.
Just recently at Cotton, somebody dumped a child in the latrine. And I must say, as I speak, that child is in my facility. I'm taking care of that child. Yeah, so people give birth to children for whatever reason nobody knows. They will always tell you that they are not in good shape to take care of such children. But fine, so our issue is that if the child is put in danger, then it becomes very critical. So even if you have an issue, you can see social welfare, and social welfare will have a way out as to what to do with such a case. Instead of keeping the child's life in danger, like going to throw the child in the bush. We have children here that were thrown in bushes that we needed to, somebody saw, brought them to social welfare, and the social welfare brought them to us. So we are appealing to people. If you give birth to a child and you are in a critical situation that you cannot take care of such a child, there is no need harming the child. Just take the child to social welfare and then go and lodge your complaint. Social welfare will listen to you, and whatever processes they need to take you through, they will take you through. And if indeed they have to come in and help, they have their own processes that they will use to come in and help in such a case.
Leader of the ProMac Foundation, Dr. Ayagre Anaba, who is into the promotion of maternal, children, and adolescent health, gave reasons why mental health cases are on the ascendancy in the region and called for more support to help deal with such cases.
Again, when you look at ProMac Foundation, we have various professional expertise. We have mental health professionals. And we were looking at some of the things that we even describe as mental health, especially with the women, could be as a result of depression, could be as a result of social frustrations, as a result of economic needs. So there are fundamental things that we need to tackle as a country. Okay, when people are so depressed, they cannot find the means. That's when you have people indulging into a whole lot of things, then out of depression, it develops into mental health. So yes, we still have a long way to go. Government is doing a lot. Ministry of Health is doing a lot. There's now the Mental Health Authority, of course, where they attend to the needs. But there's a lot out there who cannot even go to these facilities for help. And so we have to tackle the social network. It's all about social network. We have to tackle the social network. And then the Mental Health Authority, as I said, need to be resourced proper so that they can go out there to face the lot of people who are suffering from various kinds of mental illness, especially this period of economic hardship that we are going through.
And on that note of protecting life, we cap off the AM News. Stay with us. The news review is up next. Thank you for staying with us. And time now for the news review. We're joined by microfinance analyst and development enthusiast Roderick Aye. He is our guest. Roderick, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, and a happy new year.
Happy New Year to you too. How's the year started for you? And maybe before we get into the year that has started, tell us a bit about your industry, microfinance, and what happened. Of course, we've had the banking sector cleanup, but with the banking sector especially, what did you see in 2022? How did the sector fare, and what do you think can be done to better the lot of investors in 2023?
Well, thank you. The year started on a good note, in spite of all the challenges we are perceiving in terms of the economic issues. I must say that regarding all the challenges we had, the banking sector, I would say, in terms of the universal banks, stood taller. In terms of the rural bank and microfinance as well, we didn't really have any difficulties in banks registering liquidity challenges or not being able to serve their clients. That is a very important part of the things that we need to be talking about. In terms of investors as well, I think investors as well as owners, shareholders all must understand the current situations and be able to, let me say, loosen down their bits and desires a bit, and so that banks as well can be able to go through, especially 2023, which is a very determining or defining moment for banks, microfinance institutions, being rural banks or being universal banks. So in all, the most important thing is that there's much knowledge, there is much caution, and there is much information. The most important thing is how we are going to use all this information to be able to swim through 2023. So yeah, it may be financially very difficult, but with very informed position, prudent management, good governance, and forward-looking, we should be able to find our way across 2023. That's what I would say.
It's interesting that you paint that picture because, of course, we've heard the IMF boss, Georgieva, Kristalina Georgieva, in recent times talk about how difficult this year is going to be for some developing economies. I mean, economies across the world, but especially some developing economies. Also, putting that side by side with the reduction in growth. China, for example, was growing at very high levels, over the past decade or so. That has shrunk. It's same happening in the United States, in Europe, in the EU region. This is going to push hard on financing across the globe because the global north, we know the impacts they have in terms of financing projects and others in the global south. So that must also be brought to bear. And especially with Ghana going to the IMF, that also creates quite a picture. So I would ask you this, on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic are you about what portends for the banking sector and our economy at large, if you want to go there?
Yeah, let me put it this way. I mean, in terms of financial difficulty, it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, bigger economies are going to shrink, as put forward by IMF. Cost of living is going to go high, and all that we can think about. I mean, but if you carefully look at the banking sector, especially in Ghana, and you pick it from the 2008, where we had financial, difficulties across the world, I want to say that in terms of the connection between our banks and financing, they haven't really come under very difficult pressure. I mean, let me put it that way. Yes, because we still have an industry that is not so much controlling in terms of the financial circulation in the economy. We still have people who are outside the banking sector. And so, I mean, let me give you one example. Even though COVID came and happened, one of the things that was noticed in the financial sector, we saw profits going up. We saw deposits going up. We saw loans also inching up a little, that people were taking some kind of loan. So if I look at 2008 effect and I look at the COVID effect and how the banks actually still, managed through, I would say, let me not be too optimistic. Let me put it this way. At least 5, I see the banking sector actually being able to shoulder these challenges, no matter how difficult it's going to be, because of the history that I talk about, the COVID effect, and as well as the financial crash in 2008. And so I'm positive the banks will find their way out.
Of course, we must be positive. But the final bit I'll run by you when it comes to the banking sector, you would notice that, of course, and there has been a push to have an African ratings agency when it comes to our credit risk ratings, among others. But we're still tied to the apron strings of the S&Ps, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, and others. And they do this, as you're well aware, in myriad countries across the globe. It's not just in Africa. The point is, all of these entities have been downgrading us when it comes to our risk ratings. We're in junk status. The last one I saw from, Moody's also, had put us in further deteriorated junk status, approaching D, especially as we have approached the IMF for a deal. That also reflects on our banks because the national rating is given to the banks. How do you feel that will impact the banks in 2023?
Well, great. I get it from the point of the fact that if it affects the banks, it also means that it affects the ability of these banks to actually borrow from outside
Exactly.
or to receive investors and others. Fine. I mean, yes, you have your ratings. Two, you have your systems and your governance. And the truth is that, I mean, we have different desired investors across the world. I mean, for the fact that you are young doesn't mean you may not be able to secure loanable funds from other institutions. It depends on what the person is looking for. And some people are looking for social good, especially when it comes to the microfinance sector. Some people are looking for typical investment returns. So, I mean, I don't think the bank should take it as a no-go area. I mean, prepare their books and go talking. I mean, you would find some investors that are actually also interested in your system. And as well, one of the things is that if you also look, most of us also do quite a lot of mobilization from internal resources. If you look at the microfinance institutions, if you look at the rural banks, majority of our funds comes within from the system. So yes, externally we may have some challenges, but internally we can look at the system, mobilize and refinance some, projects. Yes, I take it that there are some difficulties because when you mobilize internally, you don't really have the laxity to do long-term projects. So you are bound to do some kind of short activity. That is the only challenge I see. But in terms of raising funds, yes, there'll be challenges, but there's a way out of it. So I would ask banks to look internally. I'll ask financial institutions like microfinance institutions to also look internally and improve on their mobilization drive so as to get some deposits and be able to do the lending they need. There are some institutions, investment firms or investor firms, that would actually take advantage of this situation. I mean, the investors will not close their doors to us because a junk economy as well also have some kind of opportunities depending on what you are looking out for. So we should take the situation as it is and try to turn it around, if I should put it that way.
Let's get to the news portals online and check out what they have to offer, Roderick. So I'll start with this one. In fact, two stories tied to the special prosecutor. So I'll do the first one and add the second, then I'll have you react. But maybe before I get to the stories, you do know that we had issues with the first special prosecutor. In fact, the one who started the office. I'm talking about Martin Benz Kaiser Alamisi Amidu. And he had his own issues in terms of logistics, in terms of human resource, and he wasn't paid. He, together with his outfit, were not paid for quite a while. In this instance, we have another situation where the person meant to help battle corruption has not been paid for about 17 months together with his outfit. That has also constrained them logistically in terms of making the recruitments that are required. In terms of the office space, I don't know what the latest dynamics are, but that office, when it was being started, people said this lies within the purview of the Attorney General. There's no need to do this, but we went ahead and did it, just as in South Africa and other places you would have a public prosecutor. But has that office lived up to expectation? And mind you, the special prosecutor himself on Newsfile at the tail end of the year said that he wondered whether there was that commitment to the fight against corruption. What do you make of the special prosecutor's office? And do you think it's delivering on its mandate?
First of all, I think you gave a very good example of other countries that have it. So in terms of the setup and principle, I think it was really well embraced. And it was. I mean, when the thought of it was moved and the office was set up, it received a lot of applause. And the first of its kind was also when the revered Martin was also given the position. I mean, in terms of his political inclination and then supporting a current dispensation or political move that was actually different. So the whole idea of the prosecutor was good. I mean, it was good. But again, I mean, in terms of the the second one we have, the only unfortunate thing is for the second to be still talking about the problems that existed in the first. I mean, in terms of logistics, in terms of the payments, I'd say that, I mean, with HR background, I'm just wondering how the staff in that institution will be feeling to not being able to receive their salary and be working for how many months. So the human resource aspect is a big challenge, and I think the government would need to take a look at it, because the more the workers there are denied of their livelihood, the more it creates an opportunity for them to do things that necessarily may not support the spirit and the principle in creating that office. So on that score, the human resource score, much needs to be done. And if we are talking about people not being paid for so many months, then of course, you may not necessarily expect the outcome to be as if they are paid. So, I mean, if you connect it from the human resource point of view, it is the people who would work, be motivated to do the work. But these are the people who are still talking about not having the logistics, not being paid, and all the other things. So, I mean, typically, I wouldn't expect us to have a good output of the office because there's a missing link.
There's a missing link. Let's get into that other story. In fact, those two stories. I'll start with the first one. Charles Idubuahin, Sir John's Estate, Akonta Mining, Airbus, wealthy but unnamed businessman, all under investigation by special prosecutor. And just to enumerate, the wealthy but unnamed businessman, you remember that issue in Parliament, and supposedly some businessmen who attempted bribing members of Parliament. There are different discourses or stories, narratives that have been given. I've been told by some members of Parliament themselves that yes, the money was taken but given back. Someone said he had never seen such a sum of money before. These are things that have been mentioned in private that I cannot give out the source. But it's interesting because the special prosecutor says it is, the office says it is investigating no less than 132 suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, which are at various levels of consideration. So he lists the issue of the former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Idubuahin, whose case was referred for investigation by President Akufo-Addo following Tiger IPI's documentary, Galamsey Economy. There's also a probe into the state of the late New Patriotic Party kingpin, Kwejo Owusu-Efriye, aka Sir John, which is alleged to contain the controversial bequeathing of portions of state land at the Achimota Forest in Accra to his family members. There's also the case of Akonta Mining Limited, a mining firm said to belong to Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Entwi Buesiako, also known as Chairman Wuntumi, and its alleged involvement in illegal mining at a prohibited forest reserve. And all of these are being investigated. The OSP provides the list of cases being investigated in its latest half-yearly report. Now, unnamed officials of the Bank of Ghana, the Ghana Police Service, Electricity Company of Ghana, the Gaming Commission, Ghana Water Company Limited, and the National Sports Authority, among others, are all being investigated for suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, according to the report. What do you make of this latest drive? Because I bring it up because some people have also said that, look, he's following the same trend as Martin Amidu. A lot of talk, and we'll do this and we'll do that, but which cases really have been prosecuted? None, nothing to show. We're pumping money into this venture as well. Is that how you see it?
Maybe I see it different. I think with what I indicated earlier, if we are talking about some logistics, we also need to analyze the office with a background of all the challenges that they have. And I think we should be a little bit fair with the special prosecutor, the second, because, I mean, this, for me, is no news. It's no news because it has come up earlier, which meant that he actually created the intention of going after the listed issues in the newspaper. And prosecution, as I understand, I mean, from a very layman's point of view, I am sure you would have to do your work. You have to make sure your background checks are correct, your facts are right? I mean, you don't go to the courts now to pick up your facts, but actually you get there and ensure that your fact is still intact and you present it. So I would assume all these processes are very important to get to the end of the prosecution. It might not be how fast the person will be working, but how effective those prosecutions would be. What if he runs ahead of the fact and goes to court and then it ends in nowhere? I mean, it actually also even dings the credibility of the SP. And so we should give him that room, which is done for every work, to get his facts, get himself organized, and get to know where and who would have to be dropped and who would have to be pursued. And so I wouldn't take it as, I mean, that he's doing nothing, but as well, we need to analyze his office, the challenges, and how he's, working through the system. That's what I think.
Let's tie that into this issue, also on myjoyonline.com. Alleged corruption at Northern Development Authority, OSP to release outcome in due course. And considering that story, there was a lot of noise made about it. CSOs spoke about it, but there was quite some lethargy from the executive arm of government in responding to it. And some people felt that was tantamount to a subtle endorsement, so to speak, of the actions. But let's get into that. The details are contained in a half-year report issued by the OSP, and according to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the release of the report is in pursuance of Section 3.3 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, that is Act 959. And the report signed by the Special Prosecutor lists 2 cases as having been concluded. One of them is the investigation into corruption-related offenses in respect of a contract awarded by the Northern Development Authority. Quoting the report, the office has concluded investigations into suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses in respect of a contract awarded by the Northern Development Authority to A&QS Consortium Limited for consultancy services under the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, that is IPEP, especially in respect of the quantum of the contract sum, a part of the report said. It noted that, quote, the special prosecutor or an authorized officer will issue directives and further action on the matter in due course. There are so many of such issues that have come to the fore, but let me just give a bit of a background. It follows a former NDA CEO's petition to the Chief of Staff, Akosua Frimose Opare, over a fraud issue involving his successor. Dr. Suleimana Anamzoya, in the petition, accused the successor, Sumaila Abdul Rahman, of falsifying figures and forging his signature to cash 10.4 million Ghana cedis in contracts. Mr. Martin Kwebu's petition called on the special prosecutor, Kisi Jabing, to launch a full-blown investigation into the development. It goes back to what I said. The executive arm of government basically, sat and watched as people called for justice to be done. Martin Kwebu, I remember, a news file, put this petition out, and Kisi Jabing, the special prosecutor, took it up. How positive are you that we'll come to some purposeful end when that report is released?
Good. It's a bit worrying. I mean, reading quite, such allegations. I mean, from, forging signatures and things are really serious offenses. And I think the positive thing is that the SP has done his work, he's released the reports, and the facts are out. And so I possibly think or analyze that once these are serious offenses, and whoever would try to cover up such an outcome, I mean, it will really have a negative effect on you. And therefore, I presume that the matter will be dealt with as it's required, that all the people involved would have to actually be made to answer to it. Of course, I believe in systems, and I also believe in the fact that people should be given the opportunity to defend themselves based on what they think it was. And so I presume that we will see people getting sacked and people getting prosecuted over such an allegation, especially, I mean, if you read the details, which, I mean, you just read to me, forging signatures and signing contract that, I mean, impersonating people, I mean, it's the worst of corruption that I can think of. And therefore, I expect that some harsh decisions should be taken by the executive.
Let's get into a bit of talk about the National Cathedral. And just to give you a bit of a background once more, before I get into the story, some 339 million Ghana cedis have been expended so far by the state on the National Cathedral. This year, 80 million was meant to be designated to that project, but it was poo-pooed by that committee meant to get into the matter in Parliament. They jettisoned it because it was under the Ministry of Tourism. The tourism minister, the designate, couldn't give any real account of what the money would be used for and how it would be expended. The finance ministry couldn't either, so that had to be jettisoned. And another background, 339 million spent. Out of that, if memory serves, about 225 million has gone into the project proper, and about 113 or 114 million has gone into payments for Sir David Ajay and his outfit. So that's the background to the story. Now let me get to it. Sir David Ajay, or Ajay, depending on how you pronounce his name, dismisses claims of opaque dealings in construction of National Cathedral. And the architect working on the National Cathedral has dismissed assertions that his firm, Ajay Associates, is unduly benefiting from the project. Speaking in an exclusive interview with JoyNews' Maxwell Agbagba on the sidelines of the Black Star Line Festival Summit, he noted there was nothing wrong with having a healthy debate on the edifice and its funding. However, he believes it is sad to rather make accusations without any foundation when the needed information about the project is already out in the open. Quoting him, he says, "Everybody should have an opinion and talk about how they feel about everything. Things should be allowed to be investigated and checked till everybody feels comfortable. There is nothing hidden or opaque. Everything is going through the system that can be checked through the government," he said. There have been calls, though, because there are other major projects across the world, some far bigger than the National Cathedral, for which the architects were paid, supposedly, far less. All of that has come into the picture. So I want to ask you, what do you make, first of all, of the National Cathedral project in terms of its relevance? Then again, in terms of the economic situation we're dealing with, is it right, do you think, for us to keep up with a project when indeed there are other areas we could expend those sums of money? Some cathedrals across the world took 2 centuries to build. We want to build this in what? How many years? And what do you make of the Sir David Ajay end of things and the sort of money he is getting?
Thank you. Let me start from Sir David Ajay. I think yesterday I heard a press conference replayed on one of your sister stations, and it tried to clarify the position of Sir Ajay on the project, and actually said that he was a consultant. The press conference also clarified that, I mean, in terms of whatever amount he was receiving, it was 12 or 6% of it, which is not what is in the newspapers. Actually, I think it's also very important for us to know the facts on the issue on his side. What they also said that he has not been hired as an architect, but actually as a consultant, which I don't really know the details of it. So a little bit limited on that, but it is important for us to also get to know the fact of the matter. And on the relevance, yes, I mean, and for this, I've had a lot of, good conversation with a lot of my friends who don't actually believe in that infrastructure. I am for it. Yes, we can talk about timing. We can talk about the fact that, I mean, we need to ration our resources. What I keep saying is that for the fact that you are advancing on a project, I mean, governance is a big issue, and you have different screens, or if I should go, dashboard to watch. Right. I don't really think that the project of the National Cathedral actually means that we are going to stop everything we are doing as a developing country and focus on that one.
I don't think anyone has said that, but Are these resources we could definitely expend in other areas? I'll give you a typical example, and this is just my opinion, and we're sharing opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Good, yeah.
Schools under trees. It breaks my heart every time I see one of those. There are so many schools. It would amaze you if right here in Accra, go to Gan South, go to some places, you would wonder whether they were part of the capital, okay? And with all of these happening and pumping money into this, I'm not against the cathedral, but maybe it should be more incremental, slowly incremental in approach. Like I said, other countries, the Notre Dame in cathedral in France, how long did it take them to put it up? In Washington, D.C., that cathedral, how long? And these are developed economies. And we are a developing economy, and we want to put up a cathedral in what space of time? When there are other areas, road infrastructure, our hospitals, you still go to places, personal examples I have, and you don't even get a bed. And I've seen pregnant women. Last year, a friend of mine delivered twins. You wouldn't get a bed, and sometimes you must pull certain strings to. All of that is still in existence, and we want to expend resources on what? I don't know.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, we have some agreements on this particular thing. So in terms of the project, we are not saying no, but all that we are saying is to look at the efficient utilization of our resources.
Right.
So for instance, I'm saying that, okay, if we have 100 Ghana cedis as a nation, we can decide to use 20 for cathedral and 80 for development. That's my thinking. And so that actually comes to put in the fact that, I mean, the shorter years, 2 years, I seriously don't think that we will be able to do the project in that short span. I strongly believe let's have the very lengthy national timetable for the National Cathedral and keep building it along the line without actually also preventing us from tackling issues of schools, lack of infrastructure and the hospitals and all those things. They are very important. These are the basis of our development. So we need to have a plan that if 80% of our resources is going here, 20% is going here, which should not be 80% cathedral, 20% our key development issues. That is how I would look at it. But in terms of the relevance, I think it's a good thing. All we need to do is that let's not put all our eggs in building the cathedral. That's how I would say it. But it's an important project that we need to support because it adds up to our national, I mean, it will change the dynamics of our infrastructure and face of it. I mean, if you look at, I remember I still close when they built National Theatre, Conference Center. I mean, these are all, infrastructure that added up and created avenues for us to have, projects. I see the cathedral in quotes beyond a church. I see it as an edifice that would help us to do a number of activities that we think, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a traditionalist, and ever. This would actually speak to a lot of our needs as a people. But the period, like you said, is what we need to look at. 2 years, I doubt we can be able to achieve it. But if we make it as a plan over time, without denying ourselves of critical development infrastructure, we should be able to do this together as a people.
We'll be wrapping in the next few minutes. I'll also go online and look at bbc.com. But let's wrap on myjoyonline.com with this story. Prayers alone cannot achieve New Year resolutions. I am very Christian, but also very hardworking. I think sometimes we get too prayer happy, and prayer is good. I go to church practically every day. So sometimes people would think that, seeing you make some of these comments, maybe you are satanic or you are averse to God. I am probably more God-centered than most people out there. And I'm not just saying this. Anyone who knows me knows that. But I also know that with God comes work, and you will not leave for God to do the work that you must do. Okay? So prayers alone cannot achieve New Year resolutions. That's according to Apostle Chris, the executive pastor of Worldwide Word Ministries, the Hill City Church, Apostle Chris Bedema, who has opined that depending on only prayers cannot help in the manifestation of one's resolutions. Most Christians believe that praying over their planned New Year resolutions is the only way to achieve them. As a result, they become hesitant to work, believing that their objectives will be met through intense prayer. I want you to reflect on that, because I think I'm just opining that as a country, we're so prayer happy and so work averse. We are averse to work, but we pray a lot, and we're still not seeing the results, and nothing is changing. What do you think?
I think there's actually a great disconnect between what we profess as Christians and what we do practically. I mean, there's a great disconnect. Sundays we act well. I tell people Sundays we act well.
You know, let me just say this. I was shocked on December the 31st when you see the number of cars and people going to church and how everyone is. Yet let the year start. Then you see the real us.
I actually get shocked. Even Sunday, Monday, when you're driving on the streets, it starts from the road. I mean, the way we scream and talk to people is as if we didn't go to church last Sunday. So what he's saying is actually the truth. I think we need to reposition ourselves and our mindset when it comes to our Christianity and hard work. I mean, Christianity doesn't take away the fact that you need to work hard. I mean, there's no results that you can achieve only on your needs. You must actually fold your sleeves and do hard work. I mean, and that is what we need to be doing. Yes, we pray, but yes, you will need to work hard. I mean, if you look at the number of prayers we have said in this country, if actually prayer would contribute to development, well-being, and poverty reduction, I don't think Ghana should be poor. But what do we see? And so we should please move away from thinking that the only time to reset your focus is the 31st December. Or we should also remove from the fact that God only speaks to us on 31st December. Actually, God directs and speaks to us every day. And every day, you will be making your resolution. Let me tell you something. Actually, for almost about 5 years, I decided to stop a resolution. I tell myself every day, oh yes.
We're almost on the same page on that.
Every day is a day to resolute. Every day is a day to resolute.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you make a big resolution and by December you realize that if you want to read every day, take a book and read. I mean, if you want to exercise, take a book and exercise. If you want to start running, the point is that start running. I mean, so what is it? Our lives must actually be our lives. Prayer is important, but we need to take charge of the earth that God has given to us. And I don't know how you can weed with prayers. I don't know how you can hunt with prayers. I don't know how you can build with prayers. It takes work.
But maybe you also don't know how we can industrialize with prayers.
It doesn't happen. I mean, I'm a Christian, I'm a Presbyterian. It doesn't happen if we don't apply ourselves to the principles. If we don't work hard.
Right.
I mean, typically we go to work and you see how people lack around. If the boss is not around, look at how the typical Ghanaian will behave.
Yeah.
If the policeman is not around, look at how the typical Ghanaian will behave. You know, I tell people we'll come and curse Ghana because of differences. Then we go to church and we start praying for the prosperity of our country. Then when we come, we'll take the pen and then act anyhow.
Yeah. We pray for prosperity, but we don't do the things that will bring prosperity. And sometimes there's also the political angle and there's the private angle as well, private enterprise. But just to wrap the conversation, so two things. First, I'll mention this. You know about import substitution and recently what we've said, the Jospon Group and hopefully to set up plants across the 16 regions of Ghana for rice production. What do you make of that? I always go back, and it's interesting for me because I started talking about this last year, and this year I hear a move towards this, and I'm happy about it because Nigeria was able to move from 957 metric tons of imported rice to 15 within 6-7 months. It's possible to do. And some people, when I've put it out there, have said, oh, you think other neighboring countries, when you stop importing rice and all of that, if another country was able to do it, if other countries have gained self-sufficiency, we can do it. And then I would like you to wrap with these stories on the BBC. Just share any thoughts you have on any one of them. You don't have to talk about all of them. Ghana and Morocco to start COVID checks for China arrivals. And Ghana and Morocco have become the first African countries to impose travel restrictions on passengers from China over concerns about the coronavirus. From Tuesday, which is yesterday, Morocco had banned travelers from China regardless of their nationality until further notice. The foreign ministry says the move is aimed at preventing a spike in infections in the country. Ghana's restrictions will take effect on Friday, so that is 2 days from now. There's also the bit about, let me just get to that. I am taller than the big Ghanaian, Ethiopia's tall man. So the BBC carried a story about the Ghanaian who suffers gigantism, popularly known as Awuche. Let's go, that's his nickname. And there's an Ethiopian who is saying that he is taller than this gentleman. And finally, there's a story as well about the Gambian civilians charged over a coup plot and some people killed, 5 people killed in a Mali attack. All of those stories on the BBC online platform. Quick reactions?
Yeah, I think the rise is a big thing we need to do. I mean, the truth is that I followed up the rice production in the country. The opportunity is there. The truth is that we can actually have rice produced at least 3 times in a year.
Right.
We have the right infrastructure like irrigation.
We have the arable land, and we have land that is suitable for rice paddies. You know,
somewhere in Cape Coast, somewhere in the
Volta
Western
region,
Volta region. I mean, you can count the rice. The northern, so we have it.
The northern belt, yes.
What we really have is the irrigational system. So what our farmers will do is to only do small, 1 season, and then they wait for another season.
Yeah.
But once we have a good plan, commercial, what it means is that 3 months, 4 months, we can harvest rice and go back to the field again. So I think it's a good move. What our advice is for him to get the people on board. There's Ghanaians around who actually are very knowledgeable and experienced in this business. It is important that the science part of it is added to the business. Other than that, there will be problems. The science part should be added to the desire and the enthusiasm. Other than that, there will be problems.
Right.
And so that is what I would want to take on the initiative. It's a good thing and we should support it. Yes, I think it's good that Ghana is positioning itself quickly and proactively to curb, any second infection of the COVID. I mean,
right.
COVID is very stressful, very, very stressful, very, very stressful.
And it can really impact the economy.
Absolutely. I keep saying that, I mean, for the Western world, COVID was against their human resource. But for the underdeveloped country, it was against their economy. And the economy is really harsh. It's so harsh. So it's important that we take very proactive measures to really, really, really prevent this. And to also add that for us Ghanaians that are still debating, I don't want to have the jab, I want to have the jab. I'm not a medical science, but I think the jab helps. It will help you and it will help all of us. I mean, because once somebody else is infected, actually I am not safe. And so in order to make your daughters, your sons, and your neighbors safe, please take that responsibility. Go to the health center and have your jab. I have had double. I'm left with a booster. I don't think 2 of them did anything.
Roderick, I have taken 4.
Hey.
So the original 2 and 2 boosters.
Oh, okay.
Especially because of the nature of my work and what I am exposed to from time to time and other factors. But for anyone who would say the jab is unnecessary, unneeded, well, you're putting yourself, not just yourself, but people around you at risk. Some of these things must not be politicized or over. But sometimes it's also the, what's the term? Those who put false information out there about vaccines and all of that. They also create minds. Some minds are very impressionable and they read something or see something and it's viral on TikTok or YouTube, and then people draw their own conclusions, unfortunately. So I guess a lot more education needed in that regard. But Roderick, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been really refreshing interacting with you.
Thank you. It's been a good morning. And again, I wish your viewers a happy new year. I mean, let's give it our best shot. In health-wise, I would advise, let's be very active. Too much sitting is not good. So I have one thing I want to share with people. I picked it from one of my bosses. 1 kilometer run If you cannot do anything in a day, in a week, at least buy yourself a running shoe and make sure you are only doing a 1 kilometer run or 1 kilometer walk. The walk is only 1 kilometer is just about 13 minutes, you'll be done. 1 kilometer run by 8 minutes, you are done. And you can get back to your activities. I do it after work. I change and then I do my 1 kilometer run. I sit in my car and I come back. So it's important. Let's pick up our health. Let's be positive. Let's work hard and put Ghana first. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roderick. He is a microfinance analyst and development enthusiast. Roderick Aye has been our guest. Thanks for staying. Up next, we serve you sports. Welcome back on the AM show. And as you can see in the background, we're talking agriculture today. That's our focus. On Monday, we focused on the economy and how to better it in 2023. Yesterday, we spoke about education and how to get it right. Today, we focus on agriculture, which is one of the economic backbones of our system. How do we get it right? Well, joining us for that conversation as we kickstart the big stories, we have Edward Karewe. He is General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. We also have joining the conversation a farmer, Reverend Evans Tremensa, CEO, Agric Impact Ghana Limited. Agric Impact Ghana Limited. Then we have Dr. Lawrence Achampong. How about we talk to some academics as well? He is a lecturer with the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension at the University of Cape Coast. Also joining the conversation, Alfred Amofa is CEO of Western Daredale Group Limited. All of them joining us to talk agriculture, the gains, the losses, and the way forward. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. I would like to hear some voices to know whether you're in there actually. Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
New Year too.
Okay, so I would have to find out who and who are with us this morning. Do we have Edward Karewe?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, so I see Dr. Champong. I also see the CEO of Agric Impact. And of course, I see Edward Karewe. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation. Edward, I think we could, if you could get some more lighting, it would be good. You're a bit dark where you find yourself. If there were a bit more lighting, it would be better so we can see your handsome face, Mr. Karewe.
Oh, I'm excited.
All right, so let's get into the conversation. Let's start from a bit of an overview of 2022 and what it meant for us agriculturally as speaking. Over the years, we've been told by the Agric Ministry that, Agric has grown. And in fact, the statistics seem to point to that. But is that growth reflective? Has it reflected on our general well-being in terms of food sufficiency, among others? How would you assess 2022, gentlemen? I'll start with you, Dr. Champong.
All right, thank you very much. Looking at 2022, I think the major problem, as we will all attest to, has been the high cost of food products. So, per the numbers from the ministry, it's just like you rightly said, it may appear that generally it hasn't been that bad. But when you look at the price of food product, and I think that is what resulted in the PFJ market that we're having in Accra and other parts of the country. So quantitatively, we can say that yes, looking at the challenges that we were having within the year 2022, there has been some moderate kind of growth. However, its impact on the general populace hasn't been that of what we have expected, because it hasn't been that good because of, for the general populace, what we are interested is to have the food product or agricultural product at the cheaper cost, and that hasn't truly been the case. So in general, this will be my initial comment on the question. Thank you.
Right. Dr. Champon, I just want to find out, so you've spoken about some negatives, the cost of food products, among others. What were the positives from 2022? Were there any?
Yeah, what we are looking at is that if the few positives that we can say is that if we look at the challenges that we were having, because we were having problems, what we call input prices were going up, access to input and other things were going were even difficult, and all these things. So in the midst of all this, and then we were not having probably shortages. There were no shortage of food. At least the prices were going up, but when you go to the market, at least you find something to buy. And for me, once there are no shortages, people are not queuing up as we saw in other parts of the world. And yeah, people were queuing in other parts of the world, and that did not happen here in Ghana. Then we say that indeed that is a positive development.
Right. Let me now come to our next guest, the CEO of Agric Impact. Thank you, Reverend, for joining the conversation. What would be your assessment of the year 2022?
Hello.
Hello, Rev.
Yeah, Benji.
I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Hello, Benjamin.
Rev, if you can hear me, I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Well, I think that, yes, just reiterating what Dr. Champon just said, there were some food in the system, but I mean, you and I know that when we are talking about food security, we are not just only talking about the availability of the food. We're also talking about the affordability and the way prices of food shot up. You could see food on the market, but affording the food, buying the food, prices of food were so high that people could barely afford it. And in that sense, I wouldn't say that food security was 100%. Because if we're talking about food security, we are talking about availability, we are talking about sufficiency of food, and at the same time, affordability. So if the ordinary person could not afford the basic food on the market, you could not say that we achieved the food security index. However, let me also say that we had a very rocky year. Plowing for me was a major issue for me, labor cost and all that. So it was a very tough year for farmers, and we are looking forward that this year, then this season, we don't know how it's going to be like, but I mean, it looks very tough. It looks, the way I look at it, because still the cost of diesel and then the prices of fertilizer and other inputs are still high, and I'm wondering how we are going to cope, throughout the season.
And I was about to get there because I remember my interactions with you last year. You farm cassava, which is a product, a plant that can be used for so many things, and that's a crucial industry as far as our country is concerned. But you had issues with fertilizer. Also on the back of what happened between Russia and Ukraine, which is still going on over 10 months after. Then what was the impact of fuel? You use diesel. At least now the prices have dropped. At a point, they went up to 24 Ghana cedis. What was the impact of that, all of these, on your business?
I mean, it was catastrophic, I must say, because Initially, we were plowing for 120 Ghana cedi, but during the last season, we plowed for 300 Ghana cedi. And this year, my understanding is that, having spoken to some of the tractors operators, they tell me that, boss, even though the diesel has come down, we still also have operational costs as far as maintenance is concerned. So we will still move to maybe between 350 to 400. You know, we are yet to start the plowing. So I can say to you that, Benjamin, it's going to be very tough for us as farmers. And then fertilizer on the market too is around 400 Ghana cedi. The cost of labor, overhead cost, and all of that. So it's something that we are looking at. The impact is going to be very, very great. And you know that cassava is a very vital commodity in our system, especially now that there's a lot of food issue. People are resorting to Gary, and Gary is becoming more and more expensive. And because of that, we need to produce more in order to have a lot of Gary in the system, a lot of starch in the system. But if, as a producer, I'm not able to afford my production costs very well and get the tractors on ground, get people to work on the ground, you can imagine what will happen on the market.
Thank you for those initial comments. But let me just find out from you as well. So with the assessment of 2022, I'm sure you would want some of these to be dealt with in 2023. We'll get to that. Let me bring in Edward Karewe. Mr. Karewe, so looking at the year 2022 in terms of our agricultural life, again, I'll go back to the fact that the statistics show that agriculture supposedly is growing. But is that reflective in terms of food sufficiency, in terms of cost, affordability of foodstuffs?
Well, let me say good morning to my colleagues there and to those who are listening and watching us. I think that to summarize it, the agriculture in the year 2022 has been a disaster. It has been a disaster in the sense that...
Okay, so just to get it clear, Mr. Karewe, you are saying agriculture in the year 2022 has been a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Okay, please explain.
It's a disaster in the sense that we are not interested in statistics, because statistics do not put food on anybody's table. You just go to the field and you find out that there's nothing. Look, you talk about maize, there's no maize. You talk about rice, there's no rice. Go and check the price. You know, as at last year this time, a bag of maize in the northern part of the country was between 150 to 200 cedis. Today, it is 450 to 550 Ghana cedis. Why is that so? It's also so because we did not invest more in 2022. So it reflected in the yields. Yields have been very poor in 2022, and therefore reflecting the lack of or the non-availability of the foodstuffs. And I think we need to clear this, because there's this whole thing that there's always food, there's always food. I mean, do you want us to get to the point of famine before we know that there's no food? When we get to the point of famine, it means that we are dying off. But what we have in our system today is that, yes, you will have food, it's not affordable. You will have food, people cannot make choices. And for me, it has been a long time I've experienced the level of low output of agriculture as happened in 2022. It has been many, many years. I can't just recall which particular year. As for the statistics, I don't know.
When you say you don't know, yes, I get it. Some people said in the past the sort of difficulties they faced last year were akin to what we saw in the early 80s, in 1983 to be specific. But are you saying it was that bad, and that, I mean, our food sufficiency was not that bad, was it?
Certainly, if you compare 2022 with 1983, it does not match, because the 1983 situation was more catastrophic than now. We can only say that between 2083 to now, what we experienced in 2022, in between, there's no year that we've had such a bad agricultural output. But certainly, it's not comparable to the 1983 situation, because we all know there were multiple factors that actually work or conspire to make the 1983 a very outstanding year, very bad year in our history. Because that one, it was not only about the bushfires, it was also about the return, deportation of Ghanaians from Nigeria, over 2 million of them. The international community has also locked us out of the international market, financial market. It's a similar thing in 2022, though, that Ghana can no longer go to the financial market to borrow, but then we do not have bushfires which swept across the entire country. So certainly it will be too much of an exaggeration for one to say that 2022 is comparable to 1983. But the reality is that in between 1983 and 2022, what we experienced in 2022, no other year is comparable to it except 1983.
Looking at our staples, and I'll throw this question to all three of you. Looking at our staples that we use here, the maize and others, you think banku, you think kenke, and all of that, you need maize. We also have millet in some areas, prominent in the northern sector of the country. You can talk about the yam, the plantain for fufu and other things that we do. How do you feel we fared? I pose that question because at a point, things have become so expensive that the Agric Ministry itself had to set up a market. We are well aware of that. They only sold plantain by and large, but in terms of productivity, do you think we are making the cut? I'll start with you, Karewe, before I move on to others.
Well, if you look at our agricultural development policy, which was the Planting for Food and Jobs, it recognized that we could not overnight cover all the crop areas. So it started with 5 crop areas to support them to produce, which government thought was the major staples that we eat in this country. And then they decided to add others as the years went by. So you don't expect us to have food sufficiency in all these crop areas. But unfortunately, sometimes when you hear the statistics and the statement that Ghana is self-sufficient in food production, you ask yourself, food is made up of a number of foodstuffs. Which of them are you talking about? As a country, we need to be more strategic. If maize is the major staple in our country, and we think that we have got that potential, and we think that we can invest more in it, then we should do that and become self-sufficient in maize production, as well as rice, as well as tomato. But what we are doing is trying to create the impression that we are self-sufficient in everything. Unfortunately, 2022 exposed the weaknesses of our agricultural policy, particularly the Planting for Food and Jobs, for all these years. Why am I saying that? Instead of the areas that we spent much more money in supporting, like maize, rice, soya, and the rest, being available, we did not have it. And our poultry industry is collapsed because there's no maize, there's no soya. You know, we don't have the rice. But instead, the areas that we have not spent money on, like plantain, is what was in the system. The area that we do not spend much more inputs, like fertilizer, like yam, is what we had in excess. And it's also because those ones are highly perishable, seasonal. Therefore, when the season arrives and you are harvesting, you have a challenge. We have not been able to put any value-added mechanism in place to ensure that the excess plantain that we had at the point of harvest, we process it for future use. We don't have that. So we really are groping around in the darkness. We don't know which particular one we want to emphasize on. And as we speak now, I would like government to come and tell us that as for maize production, we are self-sufficient in maize production. Rice production, we are self-sufficient in rice production. Unfortunately, these are the major foodstuffs, maize, soya, and the rest. But you can see that we just simply have insufficient output from those areas.
Just to chip in, clarify for me, are there any foodstuffs in which you can say we are at self-sufficiency levels or close? I mean, there are so many of them that we use, but are there any that you can say, look, for these ones, we're sufficient in terms of food security?
No, none of them. In the sense that if you take, for instance, plantain, it's seasonal, so, and it's highly perishable. So if during the harvesting period you have glut of it, you don't call that one we are self-sufficient in plantain. If you take tomatoes, look, as last market, I went to the market to buy tomatoes from the market, and not even in Accra, but that's in the Vrongo. And then the tomatoes was brought from Burkina Faso. Look, a box that we used to buy, as at last year, we used to buy 70 Ghana cedis, 60 Ghana cedis. I went and bought it 300 Ghana cedis because it has been brought from Burkina Faso. So I want to be educated about which particular crop or foodstuff area that Ghana is self-sufficient. But from where I stand and what I see and I know, I cannot point to a particular foodstuff that we are self-sufficient in its production. Yam is highly perishable, and it's seasonal. So those ones, we don't call them, we are self-sufficient in yam production. Because how many people can store yam in their homes to eat during the lean season? You can't store yam beyond 1 month, 2 weeks in your home. Just because you think it is cheap, you buy it and go and put it in your house. And anytime you wanted it, after 2 weeks, it will get rotten. So you don't call those ones as self-sufficient. See.
Evans, so tell me, before I bring in Alfred. Alfred, I see you, but since we started off the conversation, I'll continue on this tangent with the others, and when I get to you, I'll take your initial reflections on 2022 before we get to the substantive questions. So let me go to Evans Amofa, CEO, Agric Impact Limited. For you, Evans, in terms of low productivity, is it a reality for you? Last year, for example, as you produced cassava and all of that, what were productivity levels like? I recall at some point when I was having a conversation with you and John Dumelo and the others, you wanted to farm more acres or hectares of land last year. You were not able to do that. What was the impact?
Yeah, the impact was very massive, Benjamin. Let me say this. Last year, I wanted to do more than 500 acres of cassava. I couldn't do that because of all the factors that I just said, the fertilizer, labor costs, plowing, and all that. This year, and because of that, I mean, let me say I did about 70% of my capacity. You know, this year I'm anticipating how it's going to be like, because we still have issues with plowing costs and all that. But so it came to the fact that my production, capacity was not what I was looking or anticipating. And because of that, I became poorer, like I used to be. So when we are saying that, when the ministry is quantificating figures, in the system that we have achieved food sufficiency and all that. Like Mr. Kare said, what crop? Let's take it one after the other. If it is maize, if we have maize sufficiency in the system, okay, then why is our poultry industry going down? Now they are producing about 40% of what they could do. They don't have access to feed and all that. Yesterday, I was speaking to one of my friends who is into poultry, doing 323,000 birds, and he was telling me that this year is anticipating of doing almost about 13,000. You can imagine, because
that's about 9,000 less birds that he's going to.
Yes, 9,000 less because there's no maize, there's no soya in the system, there's no millet, because the cost alone, and then also certain factors from the ministry also, release of input and all that. These are all things that really, account for low productivity. And this year, the way I really wanted to work hard, but it looks like my momentum is going down, because I can see that the diesel is still up. I can see that labor cost is going to be another issue. I can see that inputs, pesticides and all that. So the productivity of my farm, cassava, is going to be something that I may not be able to write home about unless the ministry steps in, unless we get access to very serious funding, unless something drastic happens in the system. So I don't want us to be bouncing around and saying that we have food sufficiency. We're able to reach our target. Target like how? I am on the ground, and I'm saying that based on what I've experienced on the ground, I will not say that we have achieved all that we decided to achieve. So we have to be practical, we have to be realistic, and take it one after the other. For instance, plantain had a good season, all right? Taking plantain from the farm and bringing it to Accra to sell, okay, does not necessarily mean that we have achieved food sufficiency. But what about maize? Why didn't we go for maize? Why didn't we go for beans? Why didn't we go for cowpea and all that? And why didn't we even go for cassava? And we are saying that
rice, because rice was also very expensive.
Yes, rice. Why did we go for rice? Right now, the import bill for rice alone is close to 2 billion. 2 billion. And that amount of money is the amount of money that we get from cocoa. You get it? So we have a serious issues about our food system, and there's something that we have to do about it. And I employ the government to be realistic, to look at the figures well, and to look at it from a holistic manner, so that at the end of the day, farmers will be richer than we used to be. And we are looking for that this year we're able to produce for the country. But if we are still experiencing the same issue that we experienced last year, then it means I'm going to get the same result that we got last year.
Just a quick point before I move over to Doc. You spoke about agri-inputs, you spoke about labor and all of that, and you mentioned diesel or fuel. But I know that for now, at least you're saying that the way the year started, it doesn't egg you on to do more. But at least as far as diesel is concerned, the prices have fallen sharply. Is that not having an impact?
Prices are falling sharp, yes, but you must also realize that the tractor operators, okay, also have other overhead costs that come with the operating of the tractors. Because when a tractor is spoiled, there are many times that you're on a farm, plowing, your plow can break, you can have issues with the tractor, you have to go and service it. So those monies come in and it absorbs that diesel cost or that diesel reduction. So at the end of the day, you are still come back to square one, because the money that you should have gotten in reduction to the diesel is now going to service.
I'm too much because of the water I took.
You get it, Benjamin. So we are saying that the decrease in diesel price does not automatically, account for reduction in our production cost. Because, for example, if you are renting a tractor, if a young farmer is renting a tractor, okay, how long is he going to rent a tractor? For how much is he going to do that? And what money, how much is he going to keep to be keeping renting the tractor up to that level? And we are employing the government that there should be some, they should find a way of helping us to be able to sustain our tractors and our diesel. We are hoping that between now and February ending, the diesel will come down again. And in that sense, if able to come down again, then I'm sure that we'll be able to at least make our way out. But if it stays as it is now, I'm afraid that we will still have to be where we are.
For you, Dr. Champong, we're looking at low productivity levels from the farmers' own mouths, if you like. Climate change is also having an impact. We've not seen a drought or famine. But in terms of productivity levels, do you think they are where they ought to be as far as 2020 is concerned? And from where you sit, I'll pose that question to you as well. Are there any foodstuffs where you feel we are close to food sufficiency? Hello, Doc. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Hello, Benjamin. I'm there.
Yes.
Yes, I have. Yes. In fact, the major problem, as you rightly said, with most of our farmers is productivity. Because you have some farmers cultivating a very huge acreage, but what they are getting is actually not what they are supposed to get. In fact, they are getting far less than they expected to get. And for me, that is a huge problem that maybe going forward we will talk about, that need to be looked at. So that is a very big problem, that farmers are actually not getting what they are supposed to get, looking at the amount of land that they cultivate. If you compare it to elsewhere, some of them are getting far less.
And let's be specific. You can compare it to even other African countries. I don't want to sometimes, because places like Brazil, places like the US, if you look at an acre and what a farmer can get, and that's why they're so wealthy, and you look at our part of the world, especially Ghana, and what a farmer would cultivate a hectare or acre and get, it's a pittance.
Exactly, that is the point that I'm making. And that is the productivity, but that is the point that I'm making. That when we look at it that way, it means that the farmers are working, trying to cultivate huge acreage of land, but at the end of the day, they are just getting something small. And when you do that, definitely your cost of production will go up, but at the end of the day, you end up getting just a little for yourself. And that is a major problem in this country that we've not looked at to resolve. And for me, that is where there's a problem. And then in terms of the food sufficiency, in fact, I couldn't agree more with Evans and Edward, that sometimes you wonder where our policymakers when they try to make some statement, where they get their information from. Because when you go out there, the results is clear that in tomato, almost all the tomato that we consume in this country are coming from Burkina. All the onions that we get, Burkina, Mali, Niger, and all these places, that is where they are coming from. And maize is a problem. Rice, we are nowhere closer to what we consume in Ghana. Soya is a disaster. So all these things are clear that we are nowhere self-sufficient. In fact, plantain, just like some were saying, if you have been to the market, yes, when plantain is in the season, you have a lot of plantain in the market thinking that we are self-sufficient. But within a short time, when it's out of season, you go to the market and they will give you just 1 finger of tomato, of plantain that you are going to buy for 10 cedis and others, and sometimes even getting it to buy is even the problem. You get it. Cassava is the same thing. At a certain point in time, it's very, very expensive. Finding it is a problem. So we cannot say, in fact, if you ask me, the only crop maybe we are a bit closer, maybe yam somehow, because for yam, is that one I disagree a little with Edward that you cannot buy and store, because for me, I am able to buy yam and keep for a month or even 2 without it going bad or whatever. So for yam, that one I think somehow we are a bit closer to self-sufficiency. But if I take yam out of all the others, we are nowhere closer. But for yam, I think we are doing somehow. But the issue is that the interesting point is that when we take yam, when you look at the various policies and agricultural policies and the other things that we are talking about, like the planting for food and jobs and the other things, I think none of them are even targeting yam. So that crop that is not even targeted is even doing well. So that is where some of us are having challenge. You know, that why is it that the ones that are being targeted are not even doing well at all, like the maize, like the rice, like the soya. So there's a problem somewhere that we need to look at and then try to address. And if you look at what we call the PFG, look at most of the things. Sometimes when you go out there and you talk to farmers, when they need the input even to use, is not there. When the season is almost past, then the inputs are in. So what do I use for? So the input will arrive at the wrong time when we don't need it. And then even the distribution, getting it at the right time at the various places, and even the amount that is required, do they get it to use it? So when all these things are problems, it appears we are spending, because if you look through, I was just going through the budget statement, and then when you look at the amount of money that is spent and what we are getting, then you ask yourself, what is happening? What is happening? Because the amount we are putting in is not reflecting the results that we are getting at all. There is a mismatch.
Would you then say planting for food and jobs, there's rearing for food and jobs and all that? Would you say those policies have not lived up to expectation and that maybe we should take a second look at them?
There is the need to take a second look at it. That is the hard truth that we have to say. That is the truth. We need to take a second look at the policy. I have always said that, you know, if you ask of my opinion on the planting for food and job, let's take crops like maize. Wherever you go, you have maize farmers, you have commercial maize farmers in these areas who are really doing good job. You know, let's identify these ones and support them, and then link the small. We are not leaving the small maize farmers aside. Let's link these small maize farmers and rice farmers, all the other crop that we are doing. Let's link them to the big farm, the big commercial farmer. He becomes something like a hub. And then this input and the other things that we are talking about will be channeled through the hub. And then it will be distributed to the art growers, if you like, the smallholder farmers around them. All right. And in that case, we charge this commercial farmer who is in charge of a number of smallholder farmers. Okay, he can be held accountable and he will be responsible for all this. But where we leave the things at some office and people go and take some things and record in the book, and sometimes it's very funny. I have been to some of these places, and the way we do it, I tell you, it's people can take the seeds or the input somewhere, and they will be recording things in there as if farmers are taking them and they are planting. But if we can identify lead commercial farmers, for instance, we have Evans. If we talk of cassava, we have Evans. Wherever he is, link him with all the smallholder cassava farmers in this area, and then he will be the point of contact. And then all these people can be supported. We can do the same thing for rice. We can do the same thing for soya. And I think, is it USAID or one of the international, they did that with, I think, maize. And we did a study on that, and it was excellent. It was so beautiful because provide the input to the lead farmer, he supplied to the small farmers around them, and then this lead farmer, he will take the produce from these smallholder farmers, all right? And then when he takes it from the commercial farmer, he's also linked to some buyers, you know, and then they will also take it up until we look at these things and then maybe stop what we are now doing as if we are, in fact, there will be a problem and we are not solving any problem actually. We'll be putting more money every day, we're putting more money, but at the end of the day, the results that we expected, I'm afraid we will not get it.
Let me bring in Alfred Amofa. He is CEO, Western Daredevil Group Limited. Alfred, we'll spend quite some time because you missed out on the first bit of the conversation. I'd like to find out from you, how would you assess 2022 in terms of the agricultural year? How would you assess 1D, 1F, especially as your outfit also feeds into that project? You've heard Dr. Champong talk about it. How effective has it been? You can share your reflections with us.
On the panel, and I want to thank you. How you mentioned that Daredevil, I have fallen in love with it. You say it so well. That's so good. So what I would say is that 2022 was a catastrophic disaster. I have done this job for close to 15 years now. There has never been any time, any season, any year that things have gone so bad like that. One will just have to go to the floodplains of Ofe, Kunkum, and Oyong, to be in the Central South District, to see empty lands, farmers unable to plant because of high cost of inputs, fertilizer, weedicide, seed, and all that. Let me tell you, a seed that used to cost 120 Ghana cedis was selling around 350, 400 Ghana cedis within that time. Now it's supposed to be the time for second season for paddy. Go to the paddy planting areas in Afram, so, and it's going for the same paddy that used to cost 300 Ghana cedis is now 800 Ghana cedis. Look at the disparity in pricing. And it's because farmers incurred huge cost of production in terms of the fertilizer and other input costs, as in the weedicides and the herbicides. So last year was a serious year. It has never happened. I have not witnessed it before. They talk of 1983. I was just 1 year old, so I couldn't have witnessed it. But since I became an adult, I have never seen such a difficult year in terms of farming like that of 2022. And sometimes I get confused when someone wants to can suggest that 2022 was better than the previous year. It can never be possible. The reality on the field do not suggest that. And I don't think anyone can actually make any allusion to that fact, because those facts will be rejected, because we just need to go there to see the land being empty. People are not farming on it. So how can one suggest that we are actually going to have much productivity than the previous year? So that would be my initial comment, that 2022 was a very difficult year for me. It was a catastrophic disaster. It has never happened before since I started this about 10 to 15 years ago. And I think the cost of inputs is to be blamed for this. So that would be my initial comment assessment about 2022 agricultural year.
You started, and you've just repeated, you started by saying that 2022 was catastrophic. As far as your business is concerned, walk us through what you produce. I think you produce some fruits, right?
Yeah, I produce rice. I produce the Western Daredevil long grain rice and Ashanti Royal long grain rice. So that is what we produce. It's a well-packaged local rice. Being able to compete with any other rice from other parts of the world.
Okay, so the focus is on rice.
Yeah, I do rice.
All right. So tell us, how did you fare? Yes, you've spoken about the other factors, but because your outfit leans toward 1D, 1F, you've got support from 1D, 1F. What kind of support have you got? What kind of support did you get in 2022? Was that sufficient for you in terms of your output. And let us know, did your output go up, even if marginally, or did you actually fall back last year?
So when you talk of 1D, 1F, it's not like every year government is giving you some support yearly. There was an initial arrangement for you to get a loan from what they call partner banks. Government decided to pay a fraction of the interest rate of that facility. And that's all. And apart from that, I have said that when you do import anything, government pay a percentage of the import duty. That is all government give to beneficiaries of 1D, 1F. So it's not like every year government is going to give you some cash or something to support you. It is a one-time off thing. You get it as one-time off. It's not recurring like every year you are giving support. So that's not it. We got it. Government assisted us to get some funds, although that was not sufficient, though. But that is all. Government pays a portion of the interest rate for us. That is all. So it's not like every year government will say, come and take this money and do this. So that's all. In terms of productivity, like I said, we were not able to do even around 40%, because per our arrangement, we had other outgrowers who also grow for us, like Dr. Champong was trying to describe. And most of them could not plant. About 70% of outgrowers could not plant last year because of high cost of production. So essentially, the only thing that came to us is what we were able to do. Something small you were able to do. Apart from that, nothing came from anywhere because the farmers could not. They complained of high cost of production, of which we are also aware. So in terms of our productivity, we were able to get around 40%, and because of the factors I've enumerated above. So that's why I said it was a catastrophe. It has never happened before. I have been in this business, and there has never been any time when cost of production was that high. So for us and for a number of other rice farmers, I mean, that is the situation. We were much hit of the economic situation in that country. So for us, it was bad. It was very bad.
Tell me, what more can 1D, 1F do to assist farmers like you? Especially as you are doing this on a large scale, you have outgrowers who support you and all of that. What more can be done to ensure that maybe in 2023, I'm going ahead a bit, but I'd like to find out in your specific case, what more can be done in your industry, in your sector?
So I think this thing has been said over and over. The over-concentration on smallholder outgrowers is to blame. We are not saying that government should kick outgrowers out, but there should be a specific policy for large-scale farming. There should be a policy. If you want to go into large-scale farming, what are the incentives for you? We have been calling for this for a long time, but government is not heeding to that call. There should be a policy on that. There should be a fund for people who want to go into large-scale farming. Now, let me come to 1D, 1F. A lot of these companies are distressed. A lot of 1D, 1F companies are distressed because of lack of raw material. A lot of them are not having the raw material. And it gets back to the same problem of low productivity in agriculture. Most of us now want to go into large-scale farming. But let me tell you, this is quite funny. The Ministry of Agri did some importation of machines from Brazil. I think you've heard of it. And when the cost came out, a cost of a combined harvester was 1 million Ghana cedis. You can't believe it. 1 million Ghana cedis for a combine, a rice combine. When something less than, probably about 30% can do for a machine from China or somewhere else. So if government imported a machine and the government is selling it with subsidy at 1 million Ghana cedis, it tells you that probably there is a mixing link somewhere for government to think that a farmer in Ghana can just take 1 million Ghana cedis to buy one machine. When the government even says it's under subsidy, government has subsidized it. So what we are saying, I've been calling for, let government get some dedicated fund for people who want to go into large-scale farming, those who have the expertise, those who have a proven record of land availability and market. If you have market for your produce, just as we do, we have land, we have the expertise. We are looking at government getting some dedicated funds to, let's say, Western there, they'll take this amount, go into the large-scale farming, pay back in crops. Students in free SHS who want food to eat. Why don't you empower us to provide the food for them at least? That will solve the problem.
Now
of
that's
the
an interesting solution you're bringing to bear. We've had problems with the buffer stock. We've had problems, especially last year, where a lot of SHS, senior high schools were complaining that they didn't have the maize, the rice, and others. You are proposing that, how about government gives you money to invest in rice farming, maize farming, and the rest, and you pay government back by supplying to some of these entities, the schools. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, Ashanti region, for example, we have a number of schools, more than probably over 500 senior high schools in Ashanti region. They will need, let's say, 10,000 bags of rice to feed them, for example. Why don't you empower me? I can show you the lands I have in the Afram Plains and other areas. Let's go and inspect. These are good lands for rice. You can see my factory, my processing factory. I need X amount to produce this amount for the students. Give me the money. Let's go into a contractual agreement. Let me produce the food to feed the students. Let me tell you, Barredo one time told me, whenever there is a policy, there should be other sub-policies to safeguard it. So when government decided to bring free SHS, it should have impacted agriculture immediately. All these students are going to eat. How are they going to eat? Government should have thought of it to empower the agricultural sector to produce food for them. When you go to northern region, you can have another person there who is producing for schools in the northern region. Food should not come from Greater Accra, travel all the way to northern region. When we have farmers there, when you have big-time farmers there, government should set some funds aside, give it to people who have the capability to produce, and use it to feed the free SHS. Apart from that, we have people in the training colleges, nursing training, teacher training. Government is paying feeding fee for training colleges. Why can't you give those monies to me for me to produce those food for you? This is quite simple. It's kind of a common sense approach. You should be able to do this without any difficulty at all. You can do it for the other crops like the maize, cassava, and all the other crops that we are talking about. So this is what we are proposing. We have said this over and over. Government, get an agricultural fund, get a levy on some of these things we sell or we import, and put that money into an agricultural fund so that those who want to go into large-scale farming with the proven track record can be supported to do it so that you have peace. Food will be available for people in this country, in the schools, and in other training institutions. Military, they buy food, serfs buy food, prisons buy food, government itself buy food. So why don't you empower people to buy, to produce, and you also buy? It's like a symbiosis relationship. I produce, you also buy. That is so nice, and it has been done in other areas. It is working for other countries. Why can't it be done in Ghana? I don't understand. I simply don't understand.
I'm sure those at the Agric Ministry, including Dr. Oseakoto, are either watching or listening, and maybe they'll pick a cue from what has been said, though you've mentioned that, you've hinted that, you've made some of these ideas known to them, and there's still been no reaction. But let me go back to, do we have Edward Karewe? Mr. Karewe, are you with us? All right. I'd like to find out from you, Mr. Karewe, when it comes to incentivizing farmers. I recall reading some data in recent times about cocoa production and how initially about 96% of what was secured from other countries to the cocoa sector went to farmers. Now, per those statistics, we are looking at about 4 to 6% or maximum 8% going to farmers, cocoa farmers, which is why a lot of them are also moving out. Some of them are even ceding their farms to galamseyers and all that. I'm not saying it's right, but I remember, I don't know how many of you saw the video last year. A cocoa farmer had mentioned that, look, I farmed cocoa for about 16 years or so. I was getting this, but I gave my farm out and now I'm earning X amount. We can avoid that. So my question to you and to all of you gentlemen, how do we incentivize not just the cocoa farmer, the rice farmer, the cassava farmer, the maize farmer, the yam farmer? And interestingly, Dr. Champo, when you were speaking about yam, I think between 2020 and 2021, Ghana became the country that exported the most yam globally. So we were number one. What are we doing about it? How is 1D, 1F, pushing so that we remain number one, for example, so that we can feed? Nowadays, I interact with people and they tell me the varieties of yam that we have are not as hardy as they used to be. So you keep them for a little while and they start going bad. You remember back then you could chop a piece of yam and still keep the rest and it would be good. Now you do that and it gets moldy and all of that. I don't know what is happening, but I'll start with you, Edward Kariwe. How do we incentivize all these people?
Well, so much has been said, and then so much is also known to our policymakers. You know, when Alfred Amofa was speaking and when Evans too was talking, you see that these are practical people. Farmers are self-motivated. Look, I'm telling you, if they were not self-motivated, they would have abandoned farming because no one is targeting them. Look, yeah, because how on earth can we import food, transport rice all the way from Accra to Fumbisi to Wa to this to go and feed SHS? Why should we do this to ourselves? Amofa makes it very clear. Look, and indeed, that is sometimes the deception, is that they will give you a good policy, but the good policy, they will make sure it's not implemented. We were told that with the free SHS, they will source their foodstuffs from the local community and therefore strengthen that local economy. But when they started it, what happened? They are importing fish from China, they are importing this from this place, they are importing rice and leaving the local community. How long would a person like Alfred Amofa continue to survive when he produces and there is no support? We know if you take, and there are good models in this country already. If you take the palm oil industry, you see the big companies, they are there, and then the outgrowers go on them. But then even apart from that, there are still small businesses, I mean, from the oil palm, which are growing on their own, you know. So it is not going to destroy the smallholder farmers, but you need to target the major farmers. What is government doing about that? Government is not doing anything. And you know, it's sad that to wake up trying to struggle to have your Christmas, then to hear that we are bringing foreign investors to come and help us produce rice. Look, we have all the expertise here.
Do you think that is problematic? Because just to be fair to the Jospong Group and that interaction with the president, you would hear them talk about the fact that they had engaged the agri colleges, they had engaged universities like KNUST, they had engaged the ministry, among others, and that they were bringing in the people from Thailand, and we know, I mean, the place that Thailand occupies when it comes to rice production. You can talk of Vietnam and the others, but they were bringing the Thais in because of expertise. Is that wrong?
You see, I think that who says we do not have that expertise? Amofa is just here talking to you, and he's talking to all of us. Evans is there, I am there, many more are there, Senior and all those people are there. They are producing, they are investors, and they are doing this. Who says we don't have the expertise? Have they done an audit and to tell us that we have got a deficit in our expertise? If we have a deficit, certainly we need to bring it from outside. But this is not the case. You wake up one morning, you are telling us that you have got 40,000 acres of land that you can make available to those investors. Where does the government get that land? Does it own land? You know, it tells you that they are going to take somebody's land. You know, apart from that, you are mobilizing resources for those people to come and invest. Meanwhile, our own local people are here. They don't have those funds.
So I get, sorry I'm heckling you a bit, but I get the point you're making. You could have invested in local farmers to make them do better. You're not doing that. You're rather going to bring these expats and all of that. And for that, you're willing to give land and other funding. That's your problem.
I have a problem, seriously, because there are real efficient stakeholders in our agricultural production. The research institutions are here, the universities are there, you know, put them together. Let us have a clear picture of your policy. Some years back, just some few years back, We were told by the Minister of Agriculture that by 2023, Ghana will be a next exporter of rice. What did they put in place? Now we are in 2023. What we are only talking about, we are bringing in investors. We don't need that. We are so much obsessed with foreign investors. Look, I'm so at pain because there's abundant evidence everywhere that foreign investments, the way we are touting it, never helps us. The gold industry is there. Mining is heavily foreign dominated. What is the benefit? The telecom industry, I don't have the capacity to say certain things, but then they should tell us how much Ghanaians have benefited from that. Now, the only sector that is less, taken over by foreign investment, you are now leading, and I'm not, as for just one group of companies, they are business people and they are doing this. But you see, government is at the forefront. And look, what is going to happen is this. They will end up grab our lands. That is another form of land grabbing, and they use state institutions. Because when I hear the ministry saying that we have 40,000 acres of land, which we can make available to you, we'll create an enabling environment for you to do your business. We would support you to do your business. Why don't you create the same enabling environment for your local people to produce? Why don't you give them the same support for them to produce? Then they'll come and acquire the land, drive away all our people from those lands, you give them all the support, and then they become monopolists, they take over, they produce the rice, they export. And let me tell you, as for the Thai people, are they not, how would they come and help us to become self-sufficient in rice production? Who is going to import their rice? And we are a major importer of rice from Thailand.
And that's an important point you make, because we must look at it from that viewpoint as well. The Thai people themselves, the Thais, they also sell rice. In fact, I've always made the point about Nigeria and how it was able to reduce its rice imports. We all know the figures. I'll not go back. 957 metric tons to about 15 in a space of about 7 months. But the point is that data itself that we sourced came from the Thai Rice Growers Association. So obviously they're looking to sell their rice. Will they help you gain, food sufficiency in that regard, when it would mean that their country would be bleeding in terms of the exports to you? That's an important point you're raising.
Yes, and these are things that you wonder why, when you do consultations, these ideas will not come on. So to start with, we are competitors to them. We are consumers to them. And what they are going to do, when you talk about expertise, what expertise? They are also going to sell their equipment to us. They will say they have got an Exim loan facility for you. The money will never come to Ghana. It will be there. Right. When you are sourcing equipment from there, you use it to pay. They will tell you that specific companies you have to source your equipment from, right, and everything. In fact, I suspect, and it will include rice importation. Immediately, it looks like, it's not rice importation, it's about rice production. But give us the next 2, 3, 5 years. Look, we'll be importing rice. The companies will come and take over our lands. They'll produce, they will also bring in more rice to supplement the shortfall that they'll be having. So right. I'm saying that we can easily incentivize farmers, and it is easy. Our problem today is just that those who are leading us, because we have limited capacity. If you take Evans is limited. He's a farmer, he's just there. You take Doc here, Lawrence, he's limited. I am limited in some way because I don't control the state resources and I don't have the authority and the power, just as any of you do not have. But they still have. And we need to build on the state power. Right. And this is where, unfortunately, our state is not helping its own people to grow. What they are only interested is foreign investment. And this is the procurement economy they are growing. They think that everything must be brought from outside. And look, it also undermines our dignity. It undermines our confidence. You know, people have gone to the university. They have learned engineering, they have learned agriculture, they have learned this. They are not the people you are using. They are not the people you are using. Look, Legon has got an agricultural institute where they train young people who just come out to go into agriculture. Go and pick them, support them. The next 5 years, look, they will be fantastic producers.
Those are crucial points you are making. Let's talk to some of the farmers themselves, and you are one, but let me come to Evans. So looking at the entire situation, and it brings to mind as well our attempt to become self-sufficient when it comes to tomato production. Unfortunately, that has not worked. I'm sure many of you recall how we brought in seedlings from Burkina Faso because of their variety of tomatoes. I think between 2020 and 2021, I don't see what the impact has been statistically, and we don't see them in the system. So we are still importing tomatoes. For you, Evans, how do we incentivize farmers? You can focus, if you like, on cassava farming, since that is your area. You would have to unmute, Evans.
I agree with Mr. Amufa and Mr. Carrier, everything they've said. What we need to do to incentivize our sector is that we need an empowerment. We need to be empowered. We need to be empowered financially, and we need to be empowered in terms of logistics. For instance, like Mr. Carrier just said, if we want to grow your agriculture sector, and now you're going to depend on foreigners to come and help you to grow your sector, what you are doing is that you are rather giving away your power and your bargaining strength. For instance, I've just seen a letter that has been going around the district assemblies, from the government, instructing district assembly chief executives to assist, just one group of companies to acquire lands in their district, all right, in order to be able to do rights.
And just to interject, like Edward Karewe said, that could also lead to monopolies, and that in itself can also be a very big problem.
Exactly, because now those letters are coming to a district level for the district chief executives to assist in acquiring lands in these local areas, to help in the growing of rice. What about the local person who is already there struggling to come up, struggling to put his feet on the ground, struggling to do something? What has the government done for that person? You are asking me to do cassava. What is government doing to incentivize the cassava industry so that I can be empowered? Look, Benjamin, let me tell you this. We're trying to supply, like the way Mr. Mufa said, we're trying to supply Gary to the SHS schools in Ashanti region. I did the Gary. I took cassava from my farm. All right. I processed the cassava into Gary, and I distributed to about 5 secondary schools in Ashanti region.
Right.
For buffer stock, it took me more than 1 year before buffer stock could pay me. So in that sense, you are crippling me. You are crippling me. The data is there. Check it from buffer stock. So it took more than 1 year. And every time I ask them, please, I need the money. And at the same time, buffer stock regional director at Ashanti region was calling me to supply Gary. How would I be able to supply Gary when I've not been paid? So incentivizing the sector, the government must be serious in terms of their expenditure in these sectors. We must empower our local people. We must believe in them. We must believe that the local person can do it. If we are bringing in foreign person to come and do it, what we are doing is that, like what happened in Zimbabwe, it has happened before. At the end of the day, you are giving your lands to these people, and they will control your machines and everything, and then we will continue to be at the periphery. If we are serious and we want to have self-sufficiency and build our agri industry, our local people must be empowered. We must give them incentives. Like Mr. Mufa said, let's categorize them into commercial farmers. I have 5,000 acres right now lying down on tap. I don't have the money to go into 5,000 acres now. I'm building from somewhere. But if I have a government that will say that You know what? Those of who have 1,000 acres and above, come, let's sit down and let's see how we can empower you to serve in this sector. Cassava can be processed into flour. Now we are importing flour from Ukraine and elsewhere. We can begin to now process cassava flour and begin to distribute cassava flour to do everything that wheat flour is doing. Cassava flour can do it. It can do pastries, it can do bread, it can do everything, even Indomie that we import. We can have cassava can be processed to do Indomie. So what are we doing? We import starch from Thailand, Vietnam, Brazil, and elsewhere. And every year we spend more than $600 million to import starch. We can process cassava into starch. We import ethanol into the country for our beverage industries. Cassava can be processed into ethanol. We are even, you see, if we are not careful, a time is going to come, we may even import garri from elsewhere. We need to empower the local farmer on the ground to be self-sufficient so that he can do more and provide more. If we are not able to do that, and we are dependent on foreign investment and everything, a time is going to come, like Mr. Edward said, the only production, the only industry left for everyone to be involved is the agri. If we lose the agri sector to foreign domination, that will be the end of Ghana. We have to empower young people. We have to empower. We have a lot of people at the university level who are doing. Benjamin, you know, I've been advocating for young people to come into agri.
Right.
You know, and if we are advocating young people, we are advocating women and youth to go into agri, to do agri business. And at the same time, we are bringing foreign people to come and be at the forefront. What we are doing is that you are disempowering and you are disenfranchising your young people and discouraging them to be at the forefront. We have to have a clear-cut policy for local industry, for local practitioners in the agri sector. How we can help them to be able to become stronger. Brazil has done it. Today, Brazil is a very big economy because of the agri sector. Even Thailand, that we are now going to them, Thailand learned from us. We all came into the same system. We got independent around the same time. They have used cassava industry to really build their economy. Every year, the annual money that Thailand get from cassava is around $4 billion for only cassava alone. Rice hasn't come, and other ones have. So what can't we do? Ghana, we have the land. We have the land, but we need leadership. We need vision. We need people who have vision that for the next 10 years, this is how we are going to do it. Let me tell you something, Ben. You realize that even now, okay, the extension officers at the local level are having so much problems because agric has been now, they've now put their agric services under the district assembly, and the release of funds to these extension officers, has become another issue. You will be on the farm, you will never have any extension officer visit your farm to come and help you with your agronomic issues and everything, because one extension officer is about 1,200 farmers. And how is he going to visit 1,000 farmers at the local level? So government must pay attention to the agri ministry and help us to be able to really incentivize it by getting to the ground, making sure that the extension services and the agri at the local level is empowered efficiently, and then also they can function very well.
Dr. Champong, do you agree then, it appears there is some disconnect between the agric ministry, between policy and the reality on the ground, the incentives that are needed. So tell me, do you agree with Evans when he talks about better leadership, better vision when it comes to incentivizing agriculture? What's your take?
Thank you, Benjamin. I think I couldn't agree more with Evans. He has said it all. That is the truth. We really need somebody to take leadership.
Right.
In the agri sector. We need someone at the agri ministry who sees that Ghana can develop through agriculture. Until we get somebody with that clear vision who think that that is how we have to go, we are just joking, and we don't have it.
Are you saying the Agric Minister, Dr. Osei
Well,
Akutu,
I
has
wouldn't
failed in
say
that
so,
regard?
but well, what I'm saying is that if we look at what is happening, I think there's a problem. Because sometimes the comments that come from him and what is on the ground, in fact, it's like he's talking from a different point, and then the reality is also somewhere. So for me, we really, really, really need someone who really want to champion agriculture as something that can take Ghana from where we are. And for me, Ghana cannot develop with all the other sectors we are talking about. In fact, it's agriculture that can develop our economy. That is basically because if you look at the things, in fact, now you import rice, maize, soya, tomato, onions, what have you. And these are things that you can easily produce here. And let me tell you, if you look at the value chain of these kind of commodities that we are talking about, the amount of jobs that it can create. So the rippling effect, if you look at the agriculture, it's not just about the farming. It's about transportation. It's about mechanization. It's about input supply. It's about processing. It's about warehousing. It's about so many things. So if we look at all these, so we need someone with a clear vision who can see all these things. That when we talk of agriculture, it's not just about going to the farm. For instance, if you are going to help people to produce, let's say farmers are producing plantain in an area, but the road leading to this area is no more travel. How do they get the produce to the marketing center? They produce, everything gets rotten. So we need to look at that. And it's only in our part of the country where you go to the producing areas and roads are no more travel. So during harvesting season, you have bumper, you have a lot at the growing areas, but the areas where there are a large population and people need it, they don't have access to all these kind of things. So the issue is that we need someone with that holistic kind of idea who can see agriculture that Ghana can actually develop through agriculture. And you were talking about incentivizing the farmers, and I think Edward made it clear that farmers are rational, just like any other businessman. They are self-motivated. I want to go into any businessman. Why are you in business? At least you want something to support your livelihood. You want some returns on your investments. Can I get it? When that one is there, why won't they? So that is it. If until we do that and make agriculture attractive, we will always talk about the youth, they will never come. Because we are making the sector unattractive. And that is why I said earlier that I expect, like Mr. Mufa also made that point, let's identify people who are ready to go into commercial farming. Now, when we have identified these people, let's find the youth, people right from the university who are interested that they want to go into agriculture, they want to go into agricultural industry. Let's link them as an growers to these major producers and give them funding. Because I'm coming from the university, I don't have any money, provide the needed capital in terms of land, in terms of input, in terms of all that they need. All right? They will go into it, because at the end of the day, he produced, and then the commercial farmer that he's linked up to take the produce. He takes it, he pays them. All right? And this payment is, he pays them because he supplies everything to them. And then the commercial farmer, as Mr. Mufafi, there are several institutions and agencies in our country who can buy from these commercial farmers. So the market is there. So if the market is there, what more incentive do I need as a farmer? Because I produce and I get market for whatever that I'm producing for. Definitely, I will continue to produce, and nothing will prevent me from doing that. And again, let's try to look at our distribution network and streamline the network, the distribution network. Let's streamline it so that when I am producing, at least when I produce, I know who is coming to pick it, and when that person pick it, he know where he's giving it to. So the network should be well streamlined. All right. When the distribution network is also well streamlined, I think that will also help to what we call to incentivize our farmers. And again,
maybe make that the final point if you can.
All right. A point has been made about investors coming in here and there. It's not wrong. However, for me, my suggestion will be with the Thai investors and other things. For instance, you want places in all regions. Now you go to Ashanti region, Mr. Amufa is already there producing. Partner with him. We shouldn't look for a new thing. Go and partner with him and expand whatever that he's doing so that there is a local person as part of the team. Because when that happens, we go to the water everywhere, partner with the existing ones. Because if you do that, what is going to happen is that when they produce, the profit that comes, because you have a local person, part of the profit remains. Right. But if you have fully foreign owned, what you are doing is that you are solving one problem and creating another one. Because the problem you want to solve is that you want to sort of because there's pressure on the dollar and other things to go and import all these things, you want to reduce importation. But don't forget that if the companies are purely foreign, what will happen is that they will repatriate all their profit. And repatriation of this profit means capital. So it means they will need $1 to send away. But if we have local partners, if you have local partners in all the areas, at least if they are repatriating part will also remain. And that will help us so that our currency will be strengthened. So if we do these things and many more, maybe when there's another platform, we can talk about it. I think agriculture will move to where it will occupy its rightful place than it is doing right now.
Before I take your final comments, maybe just give you a minute each. Let me also bring in Alfred Amofa. Use about 2 minutes, Alfred, to tell us about what incentives you feel can be brought to bear. You already started talking about that. How can we make agriculture more like Mo Ibrahim, the Sudanese-British billionaire would say, more sexy, if you like? How do we make agriculture more attractive to young people especially? How do we incentivize it in 2 minutes?
The bite of the Just Born initiative. Like Mr. Champon said, it's a private-led initiative by the Just Born Group. I have made contact with Just Born, and we are talking to see like a collaboration, a partnership for Ashanti region. So I think we will want to take this slowly with Just Born at this time to see what actually, I think the devil is in the detail. So some of us are into contact with them to see what actually it takes and see if there could be a partnership with them. So so far as I'm concerned, the initiative is by Just Born, and the Thai people are just providing equipment support. That's what I know, and I think that's what it is. But as we go on with them with our negotiations, whatever comes up in terms of our partnership with them, we make it public. Now, to your question, I think the major issue is equipment. We tried this before in Western region where you were able to train some 200 people in rice farming. But the main issue is where there's small gadgets. For example, rice. How do I thresh my rice? Some use sticks in beating the paddy. But young people will never be motivated to go into this kind of arrangement. But if you have basic equipment like threshers, like some small combined harvesters, things like that, or energize the youth to go into it, like some incentives package, like cash, money, to go into it, because when you start the farming, it will take some time before the produce comes. How do I survive? But if you have some, and some of these things, I think the Youth Employment Agency once mentioned it, that is going to help people into agric, and they will pay some allowances to them till they have their first yield. Those are good things that can be done. So for me, the mechanization aspect is very important because it becomes very difficult when you have the rice and you are threshing, you don't have threshers, and you are using sticks to do it. These simple machines can be done here in Ghana. What are we doing of our own Kantanka, who has been able to manufacture cars? Can't he manufacture agricultural machines for us? It's because the ministry has not made contacts with them. Rather, we find it good to import from Brazil and India. But our own person, Apostle Kodosafo, has shown that he has the capability to manufacture basic things like this. We are importing Pragya, we are importing Aboboya. The man can do it here in Ghana. What have you done with him? So I'm talking about mechanization, not even that the advanced one, but basic machines that can help us with agriculture. Can be done here in Ghana with Apostle Kodosafo and other people who have demonstrated the ability to manufacture machines. Let's get in touch with them. Let's give them targets to manufacture some of these machines for us. And I'm telling you, the youths are ready to go into agric. Only that, as it stands now, it is not attractive. In fact, it's more or less like a curse. If you are not careful, you may be killed in the process. Let me say it, because it's so difficult, and no one is willing to help you. Let's get the machines for the boys. The boys are ready to work.
A message that comes through, Duma Al-Hassan Wahid has been watching us. He says, we're here today because government doesn't pay much attention to agriculture. The agriculture graduates are hanging around, no jobs and no support for them to demonstrate the knowledge they have acquired. My very final bit to you, I mean, you're giving your final comments, 1 minute each. But even as you give that comment, a curious thought came to me. We talk about using people in agriculture in the sector. But guess what? Owusu Efri-Akoto, the sector minister, doctor, he earned his master's and PhD at Cambridge in agricultural economics. If the people who are schooled in this cannot do it, then where do we go from here? I'll start with you, Mr. Amofa. 1 minute each or less. Let's do it quickly. Mr. Amofa, I'll start with you.
I think that our agric minister is knowledgeable in the agric. There's no doubt about that. But always there is a discrepancy between what we learn in school and the reality. And that is why the honorable minister should get himself involved in the practicality as on the field. That's what I would say. But in terms of knowledge, the guy has the knowledge. Only that the application thereof is the problem. And that has been the problem of Ghana and Africa. We have the knowledge, but how to put it into use? How to be humble to listen to other opinions and put the politics outside is what is killing us. I think going forward, we should be broad-based. You should do a lot of consultations, and you can get there. Thank you.
All right. For you, Evans?
Let me also say that I think that leadership is very key in leading, because a leader must know the way, show the way, and also be in the way. And I think that we need leaders who has vision, who has conviction, and who are willing to go the long haul. We need leaders who are ready to sacrifice for the future of the young generation. And not only the knowledge, you see, because you can have the knowledge, and if you lack leadership vision, we will still be at zero. So we need leadership with vision. You know, like Malaysia have done it, Thailand has done it, Brazil has done it. It's about leadership. Singapore has done it. It's about leadership. Number two, I think that we need the public expenditure in the agri sector is woefully inadequate, you know, and it's less than the Maputo Declaration of 10% of GDP. And I want to take this opportunity to call on the government to pay critical attention to the expenditure or the budget for agri sector, because even the budget for agri sector that we have now, okay, last year it was about 1.8% of the GDP. This year is just about 1.95% of GDP, and which is woefully inadequate, because a lot of them are even taken by the operational cost of the ministry in terms of salaries and other things. We need to look at it again by increasing the budget to at least 10% of the GDP. And in that sense, a lot of money can go into the sector to incentivize what it needs to be done so that we can be able to push the agri sector forward. And if we do that, I'm sure that within the next foreseeable future, agri economy in Ghana and the industry in Ghana will be very attractive for everyone to be involved in.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll just take this final message that comes through from Pierrot, who says, is it also that not that we have individual beneficiaries in the agricultural value chain? That's why policies aren't working. So the person is saying individual beneficiaries. Beautiful policies on paper, but the cabals in the system won't make it work. We've been joined for this conversation by, let me just get the names, Edward Karewe, General Secretary, General Agricultural Workers Union. He joined the conversation. We also had Evans Tre Mensah, Reverend Evans Tre Mensah, CEO, Agric Impact Limited, Dr. Lawrence Champon, Lecturer, Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension, University of Cape Coast, and Alfred Amofa, CEO, Western Daredale Group Limited. All of them joined us for our conversation. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, coming up next, we'll give you some tips to stay healthier this year. Our facilitator will be Dr. Fred Adomako Boateng. He's Director of Health for the Bono East region, also a consultant public health physician and a fellow of the West Africa College of Physicians. That after the break. Stay. Welcome back on the AM show. Let's talk health now. You want to stay healthy in 2023, no matter what the circumstances are. But how do you go about it? Well, our facilitator, Dr. Fred Adomako Boateng, will be sharing with us. He's Director of Health for the Bono East region, consultant, public health physician, and a fellow of the West Africa College of Physicians. Mind you, in the midst of this conversation, we shall also take your comments on this matter. What do you think? What are you looking forward to hearing? And basically, what are your questions for Dr. Adomako Boateng? Well, let me just say a very good morning to Dr. Adomako Boateng. Thank you for joining the conversation, sir.
Good morning, Ben.
Right. So it's a very important topic, especially for me, because staying healthy is the very basic. If you're not healthy, there's not much you can do. Even the Word of God says that. So how do we stay healthy in the year 2023? How do we go about it? What should we look forward to?
Oh, and WHO is saying that for Afro, first of all, you have to protect yourself, one, and two, do all that is possible also stay healthy. And how do we do that? We can just go back to the basics. The first one is that you engage in physical activity. Sedentary lifestyle is one of the leading causes of what we call obesity and overweight. If you engage in physical activity, then it's likely in a lot of other activities like binge, drinking, excessive alcohol.
So Doc, I'm going to invite you to help us do this. The connection has been breaking. So if you could just start again from point one, protecting yourself, and you know, just enumerate what you were saying again.
So the first one that and this one is that we all have to engage in physical activity, avoid sedentary lifestyle. And by physical activity, we are saying that at least if you can do exercise for 30 minutes every day, One, you can just do brisk walking, or you can just do jogging. Anything that will help you to engage in this physical activity, at least 30 minutes continuously, will boost your health. That's the first thing that I would say. The second one that I will also add to is that avoid some harmful behavior. That's your lifestyle. Excessive alcohol is harmful to your health. Excessive and overeating is also very harmful to your health. So these are the things that we have to avoid. And then if we avoid, then it means that invariably you are staying healthy. The other one that I will also add on is also know your health status. For example, I don't know if you know whether you are diabetic, whether you are hypertensive, whether you are having any underlying cause. So what we say is that at least try and engage in one screening every 6 months. Just go for a normal checkup. If you're able to do this, then if you have any underlying conditions that we don't know, we can easily take. The other thing that I will also add is that, please, let's hydrate a lot. Take in adequate waters and hydrate a lot, because if you are able to hydrate a lot, and some of the challenges that we are going to have, they will be avoided. These are some of the things that we have to do. Then also fruits, healthy diet. These are things that we can do so that it puts you at a position that regardless of the conditions that may come on, you'll be able to stand in 2023. These are the general stuff that we are supposed to do. And then the others we can also add on as we go on.
So interesting points you've made. Protect yourself. You talk about physical activity and all of that, which is crucial. And I do my own. Interestingly, I spoke to a gentleman, Roderick, this morning during the news review, and he was proposing that, look, even if you can't do anything at all, spend about 8 to 13 minutes running, or maybe even walking 1 kilometer per day. And these are things that are possible to be done. I know because I do some of these. There are sometimes I do about 11K in one day. It's possible, and all those things boost your heart health, among others. You've spoken about avoiding harmful behavior, excessive intake of alcohol, or overeating. In some cases, binge eating. And that is becoming a thing. A lot of people nowadays have sedentary jobs. It is eat, sit, sleep. Eat, sit, sleep. No physical activity. So that in itself is a big problem. Know your health status. I would take you up there because while it is crucial to do this, the other day when my good old friend KSM came to the studio, he was very fit, but there was something he was not checking. And later, if it hadn't been some suggestion for him to check that, he could have found himself in very tricky waters. But the health status check, I do that almost every year around my birthday. It's a personal thing I do. Last year, I did it multiple times, about 3 or 4 times. I have noticed that most people don't do it because they complain about money. What is the reality? How do we get around that, Dr. Adomako Boateng?
I also do mine. Almost every 6 months, I take the opportunity to pass a chemist. Please, you don't have to go to a hospital to have this medical checkup. Okay. And like Ben, you are saying, when we are talking about medical checkup, people are thinking of exorbitant kind of test that they will have to go and do. Okay. And fantastic ones. No.
So you're talking of the normal BP check and the basics. Walk us through that.
It's so crucial. Look, 75% of heart failure or cardiovascular disease is caused, the risk factor is hypertension. And a lot of people are having it without knowing.
Right.
You can just walk into any pharmacy shop. They can check your blood pressure for you. And that can save you a lot. These are the basic ones that we are talking across the board. You can even walk in that we can check your weight and your height. And we can know your, what we call your BMI, your weight, the status of your weight. So these are simple, low-hanging fruits that you can talk about. As a lady, you can just walk by, and a physical breast examination can solve a lot of problems for us. So when we come to this health promotion stuff, we are not talking about those high ones that people are thinking of. It's just a precursor to a lot of other issues. One thing that I will say is that in Ghana, a survey that was done, that a lot of people who are diagnosed of having hypertension the first time, about 30% of them have their heart enlarged.
Wow.
So already, the complications have already set in. So by the time you are picked as having hypertension, which is one of the risk factors for almost everybody, most of the cardiovascular diseases, you already have a complication, which is heart enlargement. So can you imagine just going, just a walk, so that we check your BP? And the best thing about this, most of the time when I go and check my BP, I record it in a notebook. It's also important that you record this, because what is happening is that though we have a cut point for what we term as somebody being hypertensive or not, we are individual. We have some extreme. So if I am regularly checking my BP and I know where I am, and one day I enter into a pharmacy or hospital and check my BP, I'll tell them, look, this BP you think is normal, for me it is not.
Right.
That is the beauty of the routine exams that you are supposed to do for yourself. And also you can also know your shape, your weight. So these are things that you can do and you have control over them. And we will come about the other states and other things are supposed to do. But this is you are taking your health into your own hands. Sugar. Just checking your random blood sugar or fasting blood sugar can save you a lot. Right. These are the things that I am talking about. And we can just breast examination, glance for a woman. These are a vital screening as a lady. These are things that can pick easily. I am talking about these low-hanging fruits that all of us can easily do before we can talk about the next.
And it's important. I mean, these are the basics. And blood pressure, like you're rightly saying, a lot of people take it for granted. You may want to check your PSA, your cholesterol levels, the high-density cholesterol, low-density, and all of that. Those are more... But these are the basics, essentially. Your blood sugar level, your heart rate, your pulse. And like you mentioned, I think we're on the same page, because each time I go to the hospital, my hospital checks for your temperature, your pulse, the SpO2, the amount of oxygen in your blood, your weight and all of that. Do you know I chronicle that? I have it on my phone. So I am able to reference that yesterday, I was at the hospital because of something that has been, some headaches I've been having. And I checked every single, I was referring to the past that no, in the past, this was my SpO2 and this and that. And I read on these things, so I know what the healthy range is. That one is just the basic that you can get from most outfits, and it will not cost you much. I totally agree with that. And it also gives you, the individual, some control. You have a record of your history. Because if they just note it down, the medical people know, but you don't know. So you can be able to tell that, oh, I've been fluctuating in weight from this and that, but now it's gone pretty far. What is my BMI and all that? So a very valid point you're making. But on the bit about the intake of fruits, here are two arguments that are often made. Cost, and indeed the cost of fruits in Ghana from the most basic places, depending on what you want to buy. But even for, look, I know places... And sometimes we like to focus on, okay, oranges and bananas and watermelon, let's say. These are very good. Some people complain about the chemical elements in some of them. We've put out documentaries here about some of these and how they are produced. So that element is there. But even when you're talking about the kiwis and the pomegranates and the grapes and the rest, that's another ball game because of the cost. What would you advise in respect of that?
So I think this is what called allowance for those of us in Kuno East, where bananas, oranges, and watermelon just pass along the road. So it's not all bad being in the village or in the deprived regions. We get some. And then I can't remember last time when I was going to Marseille on the 31st, and I decided to buy bananas. Then 10 cedis for bananas. I had huge amount of that to the house.
Wow.
So that is the
you should try that in Accra. What they'll give you will cry.
So these are some of the challenges. I mean, what you also earn in Accra is higher than those of us. So these are some of the
not necessarily true, Doc.
Advantages and disadvantages of what we have. But fresh fruits, then, is so important for our well-being. Regardless of, and even to talk about what you are talking, even in our local parlance, we have varieties of them. Mangoes, pawpaw, bananas,
right,
oranges. We can easily have access to from where we are coming from. And it's so important. I mean, you try it yourself. Every day you try at least eating about 2 or 3 bananas and compare that one with your bowel movement. Like when you visit.
No, that is very true. When you take bananas or even watermelon for quite a while, you realize that your bowel movement is very different. It's true.
Yes. So these are, and we have a lot of micronutrients. You know, these are what we have to promote. That look, whatever we are talking about, just look across the board. You have it. But there is something internally that you can also use as. So that is what we promote. Wherever you are, there is some food.
We're still having some connectivity issues with.
Was salt.
Salt. No, go ahead.
Let's avoid high intake of salt.
Sodium.
Be able to cut our salt intake down. Now, if we're able to cut salt, it has a lot of implications on our blood pressure.
We'll try and sort out the connection with Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng. Very interesting points he is making there. And for the salt lovers, where he ended, you might want to watch it as well because it could impact your blood pressure and also have other consequences. I mean, everything taken in moderation is good, but when you veer out of moderation, then you're looking for trouble. So maybe your taste buds, you want to please them, but in the end, you could be getting complications for yourself. So the points we've looked at so far: protect yourself. Part of that includes physical activity. Interestingly, I'm not just proffering that for you. I do it myself just to, if it's cardio, a little weightlifting here, a little cardio there, a little walking or running there, it helps. It really does. And you know that exercise works excellently for the brain. So it keeps you sharp. If you're not working out, lots of things can get to you. And in these times of COVID-19 and the rest, when we want our immune systems to stay in tip-top shape, exercise, working out. Just be careful you don't injure yourself though, but guided workouts will be a big boost. Avoid harmful behavior, Dr. Adomako-Boateng has told us. Avoid binging on alcohol or binging on food. Overeating will impact you negatively. In fact, sometimes I get curious because people of a certain age, as you grow older, actually you should eat less. And it's something I find curious in our part of the world where children in families, you would think that the children who need more protein would be given more protein. Rather, it is the adults who are given a lot more when in fact, when you look at their age, they may not need such levels of protein. But the adults rather want to take it. These are all things we should be looking at. As you age over your 60s and the rest, you shouldn't be eating what a 20-something-year-old would be eating. You're killing yourself. Then, know your health status. Every 6 months or so, random, basic checks like Doc was suggesting, your blood pressure, among others. Is it high? Is it low? And yes, there is such a thing as low blood pressure as well. What do you do about that? Hydration. I think this one, regardless of the cost of sachet water or bottled water or whatever water you use, hydration, conscious hydration. When I wake up, one of the very first things I do is to down water, 500 milliliters of water. It's a habit I've had for, 10 years plus? It's something I do. And it also helps with your bowel movements. So who knows? Maybe it's something you can take up. 500 milliliters, a sachet of water. Take it. You will start, in the course of the day, urinating. Morning, continue. I think the prescription is about 1.5 liters or something like that per day. That's the basic. If you can do that, why not? Because our bodies are like 70+% water. So the more you hydrate, the more your blood, it goes in there. Your food, digestion, it goes in there. Your kidneys and the rest, it helps you. So we ought to take note of that as well. He also made mention of the intake of fruits right before we get him back. Intake of fruits and a healthy diet. What is your intake of fruits? We all know what their contents are, and some of them contain so many elements that prevent disease, that tackle so many different things in our bodies. Do you take fruits? That's the big question. And I was also going to reference this. When Dr. Adomako Boateng is back, I'll bring it up. Recently, I read a story on myjoyonline.com about Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy saying that we should reduce our starch intake and those starch-heavy foods, the banku, the kenke, and the rest. Take them, but take them in moderation. Sometimes you look at what someone is eating, and it is all carbohydrates, carbs. I know some people do keto and others do carb diets and all of that, but we ought to watch it because when you do that, it also has implications on the body. So that's why we will also need the fruits as well. In anticipation of Dr. Adomako Boateng, we can also activate the phone lines and get what your thoughts are on this matter. You can give us a call, 0302-211-691. Even as we get Doc back, 0302-211-691. What are your thoughts? Dr. Adomako Boateng is back. Doc?
Yeah, Ben.
Yes.
So I think there's something I wanted to add.
Right.
And as you rightly said, as we age, metabolism decreases. So it's important that the intake should be moderated.
Right.
If you don't do that, it means that when you eat, you are going to deposit it on unlikely places, uninterested places that you are
places you don't want them to be deposited.
Yes, your tummy, your back, your side, because the excess will have to get a place to be deposited. So that's how we are saying that you have to reduce the intake, and especially the timing. For example, if you are going to eat and going to bed, it means you are not going to burn it. You are going to deposit them on places that you don't want. You know the men.
Right.
We start having the pot belly. You understand? And then the other aspects that be done. And then, weight gain is also one of the precursors for a lot of diseases. So that one also, you are also putting yourself at risk of
Can you mention some of the diseases? Because I think, is it diabetes related? There are others,
diabetes related, hypertension, and diseases related to other lipids and fats that we are talking about. So those are the reasons why you are not supposed to overindulge and then the time that you eat. Then the other thing that you are talking about, exercise. Exercise is so good.
Right.
The impact
Before you get into exercise, I was making mention of that, but just give me a little time. Let me bring in Benjamin from Edumfa. Ben, thanks for calling.
My problem is my pressure is on high.
Okay.
I'm taking medication, but yes, no, it's being high. So I want to ask you, what can I do so that I can reduce my pressure?
All right. Thank you, Ben, for making it brief, straight to the point. Ben in Edumfa says his blood pressure is high. He's on medication, but it's still high. He wants to know what can be done about it. We're talking exercise and the rest. What would you propose, Dr. Adomako-Boateng?
So I think you have to go and see the doctor, and then for further assessment, one, maybe the drug, they will have to add more, increase it, add other stuff, the insult, the salt intake. It's a multi-factorial issue that is important and then based on the individual, you will tailor the intervention. So good, but some of the things that we can straight away say that reduce your salt intake.
Right.
And then even the exercise that we are talking about, depending on your tolerance, that we can prescribe what you can do. As for me, I swim. That is what I do.
Wow.
Engage in something that you have fun to do your exercise. So whatever is you like doing, tennis, walking, jogging, biking, whatever, something that is fun, that you're always looking up to doing it. But you have to see your doctor or your physician.
That is paramount because, like you said, it's not one size fits all. Someone can have high blood pressure and yet your case is this, another one has it, but yet his or her case is that. So it's important. But it's interesting that you swim. Very multifaceted. It affects different parts of the body. And skipping as well is something that we often underrate. But let me bring in Innocent from the OT region. Where in the OT region are you calling from, Innocent?
Kwantasa.
Where?
Kwantasa, Brewenia.
Oh, Kwantasa.
Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, please, I just want doctor to help us to know my weight. What is the normal weight for a man? Especially my weight. And the other one is, can he help us with the food and the way of detoxification? How we can detoxify our body, our system.
Do you know your height, Innocent?
Yes, I use the women, the tape measure, the one the tailors.
Yeah, right. So what is your height?
Yeah, when I measured, I got 92 that way.
92 what?
39 years of age. But I got 92, my waist. That's down my abdomen. I got 92. So I don't know if that's the normal for men or it's above.
Okay, so this is a bit complicated. So you are 39. Your weight is what?
92.
92
no,
kilos.
Down my abdomen, not precise my waist, but down the umbilical cord. I use my stomach as a this thing because I was doing a studies and they were saying that at least we should be around the range of 70 that way. As a man, your waist and your abdomen, where they use the tape measure, should be around 72. So I want doctor to help us to understand.
Right.
So that we can know.
Right.
And please, the detoxification too.
All right, detoxification with fruits. All right. Dr. Akakpo, I was asking about the height because I knew you would be thinking of body mass index, and usually it is height, weight related. But how do you respond to Innocent?
Okay, so we have different ways of really measuring some risk factors when it comes to cardiovascular disease.
Right.
And what he is talking about is what we call the abdominal gap, where you put a tape measure from umbilicus and across. And that's what he is talking about.
Right.
In fact, that is also a higher form. Let me talk about the normal BMI. For the normal BMI, it's supposed to be 19.5
right.
to 24.9.
Yeah.
That is the normal one, isn't it?
Yeah. From 25 onwards.
Yes. If you look at me, I am slim, but I am more than this. People are questioning it, but let's use it for now.
Yeah.
Okay. And
but on the bit of questioning it, I think it is valid to make the point, because I also do extensive readings on these things. I suspect when I checked my weight yesterday, I think I had gained about 3.3 kilos, but it's because I've been doing some specific workouts with weights and others. So muscle weighs more than fat. Muscle will give you more weight. And if you balance that with your height, you will definitely get more. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are overweight, right?
Yes, yes. So we have a lot. We can even, there's a instrument that can measure the muscle and all those. But for
We've lost Doc briefly. We'll get him back. We have Mauli in Veta in the Volta region. Hello, Mauli.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm also well. What is your concern that you'd like to share with Doc?
My concern and my fear is that the doctor said
the what?
If you eat too much carbohydrate in the evening, right before sleeping, it has a consequences on you.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, if I'm not satisfied and I went to bed, I can't sleep better.
Right.
And then number two, if I couldn't sleep better, the next day I have to go to work. I have to take either coffee or maybe this kind of energy drink, maybe Ras or this kind of.
Which makes the matter even worse. You know that.
Yes, to sustain myself like at work. And sometimes after taking the energy drink, I have to, I feel something in my body that when my strength is down, I feel some kind of anxiety. How do I manage myself? How do I manage myself?
And you know, because of the caffeine content of most of these energy drinks, they also work on you. They have their own effects, which is why, I mean, I'm not trying to demonize any industry, but health-wise, we have to know when you pump these things into your body, there will be consequences over time, especially if you do it often. But I will try to. Is that all?
Yes, it's like I'm almost addicted to that kind of energy, like this kind of booster and then stimulated, to sustain myself. And then sometimes I can't sleep, and I think it's affecting my sexual potential as well.
Wow. Okay, so
I want doctor to help me.
It's pretty serious. All right. Thank you, Mauli, for sharing your thoughts. Doc, so I have you back. I'm just going to give you a briefing on what Mauli says. He says he takes, on the bit about taking too much carbs. Let's say, I mean, he's done with his regular day. It's late, but he's hungry. So he eats, and maybe it's going to be some bangu or something like that. He takes it because if he doesn't take in solid food or something good, he will not be able to sleep. Now, if he's not able to sleep, he has to go to work in the morning, and then he will have to fall on an energy drink. And you know, he says when he takes the energy drinks too, they have a certain effect on him. And I was pointing out to the caffeine base of most of these energy drinks and how they would work on you. He's also saying it's got to the point where it's even affecting his potency sexually. What would you say to Mauli?
So Mauli, thank you for the question. Ben, as we are saying that some of these things we have to look at them on individual basis.
Okay.
And then you have to get him one-on-one. Look at him, examine him, do some labs, or are there other things that we don't know that maybe we can. So it's a whole complex that, so once he has seen them, we can talk behind and make sure that we get a doctor at Uti for him, my colleague there, so that he can be followed up.
Right.
And because, for example, sleep is also very important for your well-being. If you are deprived of sleep for a long time, it's going to have effect on your output.
Right.
On other issues. And so if you are not careful, other mental states, problems will start coming in, and it will start affecting all the other things in the body. So he will have to get a doctor,
right?
And not only doctor, maybe. So there are a lot to this issue that we will have to look at.
Okay.
For example,
so Mauli, just hold for me, Doc. We have a caller. I don't want to lose the caller, but I'll come back to you so you continue on that point. Philip is calling from the Upper East region. Hello, Philip.
Hello.
Good morning. What are your concerns that you'd like to share with Doc?
Yes. First of all, I want to talk about the agric you discussed earlier on before the health matter. And I think the issue about agric is, the agric is now under the Ministry of Local Government.
Right.
And if you look at the way things work out there, you media people may not get the issues very well. You see, Ministry of Local Government is purely political. And so on the ground, they, in a way, coerce the directors of agric to give figures that does not reflect what is happening on the ground.
Right.
And that is why most of the time you have the agric minister saying something, and on the ground is the opposite.
Okay.
So my appeal is that if they can take off agric from the local government ministry, so that it will stand it alone, like the way it used to be,
right,
Ghanaians will begin to appreciate the real problem of agric and
Okay.
tackle it squarely.
Okay.
If not that, you can even bring whatever it is, it's going to be square zero.
Okay.
Let me go to the health issues.
All right. Quickly on that, because of time.
I had a fracture on my ankle side.
Okay.
And since then, it has not been fixed. It is not well. I haven't recovered. So even I used to play ball, but now I can't play ball because of that.
Okay.
I want that advice from doctor. That what can I do? Even though I do walking, a lot of walking, I can't play ball again. And even the leg is not straight like the way it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip, for sharing your thoughts. So, Doc, just to remind you that I think Mauli spoke about detoxification, or one of our earlier callers, detoxification with fruits. What would you suggest? And then we can come to you were wrapping up with something about Mauli. You said you could arrange for a doctor to see him and all of that. So, quick points. You would have to unmute.
Can you hear me, Ben?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
So, this detox, the body is done in such a way that it's able to take care of itself.
Okay.
It's very important that if you maintain your body so well, eat the right amounts and what we call the balanced diet, and talk about all that we are discussing, Ben, the body will take care of itself.
Okay. All right.
When we are sick, what actually is happening is that because of 1-2 problems, the body is not able to take care of itself, regulate itself. So we're taking something to support the body to do that.
Okay.
At the end of the day, is the body, the organs that are able to do that. So it's important that they are maintained in their ultimate state,
okay,
so that they can function very well. Can you look at the dialysis, for example, the kidney? And if the kidney is having a problem, have you seen how the dialysis, the expensive nature of dialysis, the kind of stuff that we use for the dialysis, that your kidney is doing? I want people to think about that. So that anytime you are putting in something in your body, you have to think twice.
All right.
Is it?
We have Samuel from the OT region.
Body cannot do.
Right.
And you are supposed
to. So interesting point you make about the kidneys and the functions they play, which if you don't maintain, you would have to pay for. Let's do Samuel as our final caller, Doc, and then you can give your responses to the end. Samuel in the OT region. Hello, Sam.
Yes, sir, boss. Good morning.
Good morning. You are the boss. Please, what are your quick thoughts?
My quick contribution is that I was diagnosed last year to have hypertension.
Okay.
But I was put on drugs, and now, thank God, it has come down. The doctors interacted with me well. They asked me a series of questions about, do I take on in alcohol, and so many things. So, and I don't do all these things, but I didn't know the reason why I had that hypertension. But thank God now it is okay. I want to find out from doctor whether I can now stop it or I should continue taking the drugs, because I know the drugs also have some negative effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Doc, something just came to mind. I think oftentimes we talk about hypertension and forget that there's hypotension as well. Blood pressure, high and low. Maybe that will be for another conversation, but quick reactions to that?
Okay, so Ben, about 90% or more than that, if you people who are hypertensive, if you take 10 of them, 9 of them, you cannot really pinpoint that this is causing that.
Wow.
Basically. And then 1-2% or 3%, you can really ascribe it to a particular cause, which we call the secondary. But now we are even moving away from that. We look at the risk factors that you have and look at even the BP that you are having.
Okay.
So for most of us, we will not have any particular reason why our blood pressure, our BP is increasing.
Okay.
That's one. And so when we go then, but one thing that has been implicated in most of this is salt that we have discussed a lot, and the other risk factors. So when you go, there are drugs that you are put on to make sure that we maintain, because blood pressure is the risk factor for cardiovascular disease. When we say heart failure, stroke, he slept, sudden death, all these are risk. Blood pressure is the risk factor that will lead to other complications to do this. So when we are taking drugs, we are making sure that the blood pressure will not lead to the other complications. So no matter what, except 1-2 people, they are tried and tested medications that will make sure that we bring your BP under control.
Right.
With all the other things that we will do. But for our brothers, men, blood pressure drugs will not take your gun.
Okay. We have just about 30 seconds, Doc, so you go ahead.
There are tried and tested drugs that you can take that will help you to maintain the potency.
Okay.
If you are not careful and you are saying, no, if I take drugs, because the hypertension itself can lead to erectile dysfunction and low performance. And by the time you get there and you go to the hospital and we say, look, your blood pressure is high, we give you medication, that low performance and erectile function, you attribute it to what? The drugs.
Right.
But that was already going on that we saw. So blood pressure drugs, we have current ones that are good. In any case, we have drugs that also boost our potency as men. So we shouldn't be worried at all.
Doc, it's been so good conversing with you this morning. Thanks for your tips, and we're going to try. I'm sure those who have watched it are going to try to go by them as much as we can. Hopefully next time you're in town, maybe we can see what we'll do. We'll get you some bananas. You see the Accra prices. But thank you.
Yes, and I'll also bring you Kintampo bananas.
Right. I look forward to that. Dr. Fred Adomako Boateng joined us. He is Director of Health for the Bono East region, also a consultant public health physician, and he is a fellow of the West Africa College of Physicians. Thank you once more, Doc.
Ben, good day.
Good day to you too. And even as we spoke about the healthy things to do, you remember Doc spoke about drinking a lot of water, hydrating. Well, water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like me. Just remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. And right before we go, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online via taxpayersportal.com or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play or App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Just reach out to the GRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110 or via WhatsApp numbers 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664 for further inquiries. On that note, it's Bye-bye from us, the AM crew, to you, Yao Forsen, Derek Ekosam, Pomar, Dennis, and all the crew who make me look good on air. The camera crew as well. Up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay.